the Sorcerer of the Celestial Dragon line. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 426 New World. After arranging the first phase of the floating city project, Allen traveled through time again. As a ray of spiritual light rose, Allen's figure disappeared from the astronomical observatory. The Earth of this era has just entered the 21st century. Human technology has been extremely advanced, with artificial satellites, spacecraft, rockets, intercontinental missiles, nuclear weapons, and the internet. This era is the era of information explosion, and humans have shifted their attention from the Earth to space. The Wayland Group is a large multinational company with business areas covering many aspects, and has performed well in the fields of medical care, transportation, energy, mining, electronics, the internet, and security. In 2004, the United States. At this time, the world has just entered the 21st century, and human exploration capabilities have made a leap forward. There are thousands of various artificial satellites outside the Earth, which monitor the Earth at all times. These satellites include various satellites such as meteorology, resources, detection, and communications. Humans can even rely on these satellites to conduct resource exploration on a global scale. The development of medical biotechnology has also continuously increased human life expectancy, and the emergence of antibiotics has made many diseases curable. Humans are proud of their achievements. However, for thousands of years, perhaps since the birth of wisdom, humans have been troubled by a problem. Who am I? Where do I come from? And where am I going? This question has troubled mankind for countless years. Human beings continue to explore and study, largely because they want to know their past and future. This is also the reason why more and more archaeological teams and scientific research teams have emerged. Some people want to dig into human history and want to know where they come from. They hope to find evidence to prove the origin of mankind. Since the outbreak of modern science, the theology of God creating man has completely collapsed. Darwin's theory of evolution has proposed a new direction for the origin of mankind, but as time goes by, this statement has aroused doubts from many people. Not everyone can accept that they evolved from monkeys. Modern science has conducted a large number of comparisons on human fossils that have appeared around the world to find out the secrets. The most widely recognized view is that the ancestors of mankind first lived in the Great Rift Valley of East Africa, and then because of the degradation of the forest, the ancestors of mankind walked down from the trees and began to walk on their feet. After leaving Africa, they were divided into many ethnic groups and began to go to different places. After hundreds of thousands of years of evolution, they became today's humans. This statement is the most widely circulated statement in the world today. Another theory is that humans are descendants of intelligent extraterrestrial life, but this theory lacks evidence. It can only be a myth if it is based on the legend that God's created humans. For thousands of years, humans have looked up at the stars, eager to find the answer and solve the mystery of race. Allen stood on a busy street, surrounded by pedestrians and cars, looking at the familiar yet unfamiliar scene in front of him with a lot of emotion. However, he knew that this was not the Earth he left, because a date marked on the huge outdoor display screen on the outer wall of a tall building in the distance was October 10th, 2004. Modern society in 2004. Which world is this? Underworld? Harry Potter? Or just a modern urban movie? Allen looked around and then dispersed his mental power. The powerful mental power of the legendary wizard instantly burst out from Allen, and the surrounding energy field was disturbed by it. For a while, the electromagnetic waves in this area were interrupted for a few seconds. Allen's mental power swept through the city in an instant, and then continued to spread to the outside world, covering the surrounding area of dozens of kilometers before stopping. Then, with the help of the chip, Allen began to scan the area carefully. No demonized creatures were found. No dark creatures were found. No extraordinary power was found. Looking at the results of the chip scan, Allen frowned. Is this world just an ordinary technological world? Just as Allen was thinking, he suddenly raised his head and stared at the sky urgently. At this time, in the space outside the Earth, a huge spaceship appeared near the Earth. The spaceship full of science fiction came near the Earth, and the next moment a powerful energy wave instantly shot out. A beam of light shot directly into the Earth from space, and the light flashed. At the same time, on Bowser Island, about 1,600 kilometers north of Antarctica, on an island covered with ice and snow all year round, a beam of light flashed, and the ice layer with a thickness of about thousands of feet instantly melted into an ice cave with a diameter of 1 meter. Under the ice layer is a huge pyramid. When Allen saw the space battleship in outer space, his eyes flickered. It was obvious that the battleship was at least hundreds or even thousands of years ahead of the Earth. The one that was fired just now should be a laser cannon. It was quite powerful. That direction was the South Pole. This style of battleship should be a Predator. Alien versus Predator? It seems that I'm lucky. Allen originally thought that this was just an ordinary world, and he was worried about the limited benefits. After discovering that this was actually a battle between aliens and predators, Allen was instantly overjoyed. This world is not simple. There are not only aliens but also predators. Predators are a highly civilized alien race. They look like humans, but they have many beast features, such as fangs, claws, tall stature, and strong strength. Although this race is technologically advanced, it advocates hunting. Every young predator who wants to become an adult must participate in the trial. The content of the trial is simple, but also very cruel. That is, hunting aliens. These predators are technologically powerful, with advanced weapons. Their bodies can be optically invisible, and their masks can provide multispectral scanning, magnified images, light transmission, photosensitivity, infrared detection, microcomputers, plasma shoulder cannons, plasma pistols, laser positioning, blockades, portable nuclear bombs, etc. It can be said that every predator is armed to the teeth. As for the human killing of predators in the movie, that is just the protagonist's halo. If they really meet, they can easily destroy a unit. As a trial for the predator's coming of age ceremony, the alien is also a powerful creature. This strange creature will change its form and adaptability to the environment according to the host's genes, and will constantly modify its own genetic evolution. Its eggs can even be preserved in a vacuum environment for thousands of years, and once a life approaches, it will hatch quickly. Its larvae are a face hugger, which can be ejected directly at the moment of discovering the target, hugging the creature's face, and then implanting the parasite into the organism. Thanks to the two book friends 201903252327145153 and KO9,958,258 for their 100 starting coins reward. Chapter 427 Alien vs. Predator. The facehugger will die after parasitizing, and the parasite will break out of the host's chest a few hours later. Then the alien will grow rapidly and enter the mature form in just half an hour or even less. This creature exists entirely for hunting. They have no other distractions and their only purpose is to survive. More importantly, this creature was created by a powerful cosmic race, which is also the creator of humans. They are tall and strong, with smooth skin and a height of more than 2 meters. They have many titles, such as creator and engineer. Before the birth of humans, this race could already travel across galaxies and even had the means to create life, but such a powerful race actually played too much. The cosmic snakes and aliens they created are cold-blooded machines and perfect killers, but they did not leave any countermeasures and were destroyed by the weapons they created. In addition to their good height and physical fitness, extremely advanced technology, and the creation of many creatures, the creator and engineer in the movie did not show any extraordinary power. Even the aliens they created, although powerful, can be dealt with by a great knight. The only thing to be careful of is the corrosive blood. Maybe they have some powerful technology, but not yet powerful enough to scare Allen. Allen's current strength can teleport at will. No matter how powerful their weapons are, they have to hit the target. Even if they are automatically tracked, can they penetrate the crystal wall system? If they have this ability, they will not only make trouble in this universe. Maybe there are some powerful technological civilizations in the heavens and the worlds, which already have such as dimensionality reduction strikes. two-dimensional foil, etc. But it is definitely not this engineer civilization. Allen looked up and looked at the sky. In the space that is invisible to the naked eye, a huge invisible warship was quietly parked in the low Earth orbit. Iron Blood battleship. Since we have encountered it, we can't miss it. Allen smiled slightly and then turned and left. In a room with extremely luxurious decoration. Sir, your plane is ready and can take off at any time. Allen lay leisurely on the sofa, holding a glass of bright red wine in his hand, and his clothes were changed into loose casual clothes. A middle-aged man in a suit and tie next to him was holding a document and said respectfully, "Well, thank you for your hard work." Allen smiled slightly, put down the wine glass, and stood up. Then he followed the middle-aged man out of the room. After coming to this world, Allen easily got an identity for himself. There is no extraordinary ability in this world. Allen easily used magic to control a large number of people to serve him. If he wanted to, it would take some time. Even if he controlled the entire United States, it would not be outdated. But he had no intention of controlling the world, so he didn't do it. Now for his own convenience, Allen controlled a group of people to serve him. Since the Iron Blood battleship has appeared, it means that the plot has begun. Allen's target is the Iron Blood battleship, so he should also act. There will be an accident in the coming of age ceremony of the special blood warriors this time. The final result is that all 3 Iron Blood warriors died, and the alien queen will also break free from the cage. Allen is also interested in this kind of biological weapon. He plans to catch one for a search. The plane took off from the airport and flew to Chile. After a stop in Chile for refueling, it can fly directly to Antarctica. The plane that Allen took was a private plane. It was a modified Boeing 747 and belonged to the American Express Company. The plane was luxuriously decorated and had a large space, but there was only Allen as a passenger. Allen had also taken a plane in his previous life, but this kind of private plane was the first time, but it felt good. At least the space was large enough. Compared with a wizard using the flying spell himself, it was much more comfortable. Although the flying spell was not of high level, the flying speed was limited. Even after improvement, it could not fly fast for a long time. In the wizard world, it was generally taken by a flying magic beast. The backspace of the magic beast was limited, so it was naturally not as good as the plane. If it was farther, it would be a teleportation array, or direct teleportation. Some wizard organizations have built airships, but this flying tool is a bit slow and has a large space, but few wizards use it for travel. This airship has a limited cost and is not very safe. Allen was thinking about whether to return to the wizard world and build an airplane, but he gave up the idea when he thought of the space battleship of the Iron Warrior. When he got the space battleship, it would be better than any airplane. Just as Allen was thinking, the plane crossed the ocean and was about to enter the Antarctic Circle. "Sir, the plane is about to reach the destination. Do you need to take a look?" A blonde and charming stewardess came to Allen and said. "Are we there?" Allen turned his head and looked out the window. "I saw that the blue sea was frozen. If I move my sight to the distance, I can see a black object slowly getting bigger. It is an island, which is also Allen's destination this time. It's close to the destination. Sir, do you need the plane to fly around here and then return?" Because the island is uninhabited and there is no airport, Allen originally asked to fly around the island once and then return. Although the American Express Company did not understand Allen's purpose, it was not uncommon for those rich people to do things that seemed inexplicable to ordinary people. Just fly around the island. Allen nodded and looked at the island that was getting closer and closer. The island was in the Antarctic Circle and was completely covered with ice and snow. An icebreaker was docked near the island. At this time, there were already quite a few people on this small island in the Antarctic Circle. These people gathered in an abandoned whaling station. In an open space in the whaling station, a passage with a diameter of about 2 meters appeared on the hard ice surface. The passage was smooth and presented a perfect 30-degree angle, directly connecting the ground and the pyramid under the ice sheet. At this time, the group of people had entered the pyramid through this passage, but they did not know that what was waiting for them was not just a pyramid, but the awakening cosmic snake, the alien. And as the opponent of the alien, the Iron Warrior has also arrived. A killing has already taken place in this abandoned whaling station. As an unexpected intruder, these humans intervened in the Iron Warriors' coming-of-age ceremony. Facing the powerful alien race, the powerful guns of humans are not much better than toys. These alien races can become invisible, are proficient in hunting, have physical fitness far superior to that of humans, and with their sneak attacks, the humans left in the whaling station have no power to resist, and are quickly killed. Chapter 428 I have a bold idea. The plane that Allen was on arrived over the island. After performing a psychological suggestion, the plane began to return. However, they did not notice that one person was missing from the plane. A flash of light flashed, and Allen appeared directly at the abandoned whaling station. At this time, the sky was dark, and the whaling station was empty. There were only a few human corpses hanging on the roof, swaying back and forth in the breeze. It seems that the predator has already entered. Allen looked at the scene, and then came to the ice cave. The hobbies of those predators are very special. They like to wear fishnet tights. They are so ugly, and wearing those fishnet tights is really eye-catching. Allen thought of the image of the predator in the movie, and couldn't help curling his lips. Allen moved his feet, and the next moment his body appeared at the entrance of the cave. He snapped his fingers and a flash of light flashed. Walk on ice. This spell allows you to move freely on the ice without worrying about falling. The level of the spell is not high, but it is very useful. The white dragon among the 5 colored dragons is born with this ability. As a cold dragon, they like to live on the ice field, sliding down directly along the cave in trance. After dozens of seconds, Allen appeared under the ice layer and cast a high-level invisibility spell on himself. Allen's body disappeared directly, and at the same time, several energy shields emerged on the surface of his body. The infrared detection equipment of the Iron Blood Warrior could not find Allen's position at all. After getting ready, Allen came to the pyramid, which is a pyramid that combines the styles of the Egyptians, Aztecs, and Mayans. As the trial site of the Iron Blood Warrior, it is opened once every 100 years. Every time, there will be an Iron Blood Warrior who has just come of age here. After getting the weapons, they kill the aliens to complete their coming of age ceremony. However, there were some minor problems in this trial. Some humans broke in early and opened the pyramid, took away the Iron Blood Warrior's weapons, and lost the shoulder-mounted plasma cannon. These underage Iron Blood Warriors only have wrist knives, folding spears, flying discs, net guns and other weapons, which are not opponents of the large number of aliens. Looking at the pyramid that has started, Allen stepped in. Chip. Scan the structure of this pyramid and search for the alien queen. As Allen finished speaking, an invisible light wave spread instantly. A few seconds later, a 3-dimensional pyramid image appeared in front of Allen's eyes. There were a lot of red, yellow, and black dots marked in the pyramid. The yellow ones represented humans, the red ones represented aliens, and the black ones represented predators. Now there was only one black dot left in the pyramid, which meant that the other 2 predators were dead. There were still 4 or 5 humans, but the situation was worrying. Except for the heroine, the others were either dead or parasitized by facehuggers. The number of aliens had exceeded 10. Right below the pyramid was a larger red dot, which was the alien queen. Host, please note that the pyramid has begun to change. You will encounter aliens in 1 minute. The cold mechanical sound of the chip sounded. The floor under Allen's feet began to move continuously. After a few dozen seconds, the pyramid stopped moving. Allen appeared in a passage. Not far from Allen, an alien was hiding in the corner. Hush. Don't talk. Look what we found. A lone worker bee alien. Come. We approached it quietly, being careful not to make any noise. It was hunting its prey, and the slightest movement would alarm it. Okay. Now we are close to it. Next we have to catch it, which is a very skillful thing, but it is not difficult for us. First we have to quietly set up a binding array, just like this, slowly. The worker bee aliens have never experienced magic, and they have no idea what they are going to face. This is good news for us. The worker bee aliens are good things. They are rich in nutrition. You can eat them after removing the head and internal organs. Their nutrition is 6 times that of beef. No, I got the wrong script. The blood of the worker bee alien is highly corrosive. As for its nutritional value, we need to study it further. Well, after seeing this alien, I have a bold idea. It is said that the alien belongs to the snake family. The meat of snakes is delicious and has the effect of strengthening nerves and prolonging life. In addition, its protein contains 8 essential amino acids for the human body, and the cholesterol content is very low. It has a certain effect on preventing and treating vascular sclerosis. At the same time, it has the function of nourishing the skin and regulating human metabolism. The calcium, magnesium and other element contained in snake meat exist in the form of protein fusion, so it is easier for the human body to absorb and utilize. Therefore, it is very necessary to prevent cardiovascular diseases, osteoporosis, inflammation, or tuberculosis. You see so many benefits. Then as a cosmic snake, will the meat quality of the alien be bad? Let's do an experiment. With a spell of aura, the alien in front of me was instantly startled, and the appearance of the alien would change according to the creature it parasitizes. At this time, the alien body is more than 2.5 meters tall, with a shiny black shell, a huge oval head extending to the back, slender limbs, sharp claws, and teeth in the mouth close to humans, but the tongue sticking out of its mouth is also covered with teeth. There is also a long tail behind it, which is conical, and has barbs on it. There are blood grooves in the bones. This is a biological weapon specially born for killing. There is also a layer of mucus on the body of this alien, which looks like it has just grown up. After realizing that the body cannot move, the alien in front of me began to struggle frantically. A series of hisses came out of its mouth, but its power was completely unable to shake the energy chains that bound it. Allen looked at the alien with some disdain, then snapped his fingers and knocked it unconscious into a state of suspended animation, and then threw it into a private space. However, the alien's hissing had already sent out a distress signal, and Allen saw on the 3-dimensional map that several aliens had begun to move here. Seeing the aliens moving over, Allen smiled slightly, snapped his fingers, and a series of translucent wind blades appeared in the air and then flew out in an instant. The body of the running and jumping worker bee alien disintegrated directly in the air. Green blood gushed out, and the ground was corroded by the blood with a sizzling sound. After dealing with several aliens, Allen continued to walk along the passage to the bottom of the pyramid. The chip marks the route to the bottom of the pyramid. A white line appeared on the translucent model in front of him, and Allen began to move quickly along the marked route. Chapter 429 Alien Queen. Allen followed the passage without stopping, and soon arrived at the bottom of the pyramid. The space here is very large, with a layer of sticky green fungal carpet on the ground. Watermelon-sized alien eggs are scattered throughout the room, and there are sticky secretions everywhere. Several unconscious humans are lying around, and there are several dead face huggers around. In the center of the room, a large number of metal chains locked a hideous and terrifying creature in midair. This monster is the Alien Queen. Compared with ordinary heterosexuals, the Alien Queen is abnormally huge. Ordinary worker bee aliens are only 2.5 meters tall, while the Alien Queen's body is more than 6 meters. The body and tail are nearly 15 meters long, with a shiny black shell and hideous claws. It looks like the Grim Reaper in a nightmare. I wonder if this thing can parasitize the devil. Seeing this monster, Allen suddenly had an idea. However, he did not hold much hope for the heterosexual to parasitize the devil. The devil's body is not human, and it is full of chaotic and corrosive power. Although this thing is powerful, it is just an ordinary creature. Seeing Allen appear, the Alien Queen felt the danger and struggled to get rid of the chains. Several worker bee aliens appeared beside the Alien Queen and tore her body apart. Green blood gushed out. The blood corroded the chains quickly. As the Alien Queen struggled, the severely corroded chains broke one by one. Finally, with a bang, the huge Alien Queen regained her freedom. The freed Alien Queen screamed to the sky and rushed directly to Allen. Her eyes were cold, as if she was looking at a piece of food. Allen frowned. This feeling was not good. How long has it been? There are still creatures who dare to look at me with such eyes. My laboratory is still lacking some experimental materials. I think you are quite suitable. Looking at the Alien Queen rushing over, Allen snapped his fingers. Stun. A flash of inspiration flashed, and the Alien Queen's body froze. Under the action of inertia, she fell directly. The The huge body fell to the ground with a bang, and then rubbed the ground, and slid to Allen's feet. Allen raised his foot, and stepped on the alien queen who was struggling to get up. The huge force cracked the rocky ground. The alien queen kept twisting her body, trying to break free, but it was useless. Swoosh! The sharp and ferocious tail pierced through the air, and stabbed towards Allen fiercely. With a raised arm, Allen grabbed Key, and then used his arm to throw the huge body of the alien queen up. Allen picked up the alien queen with one hand, and slammed it back and forth against the wall and the ground. The solid pyramid was smashed with a loud bang. Several worker bee aliens that rushed up were directly smashed and flew out, and then hit the rock hard. The hard black shell cracked, and the body twisted into weird angles. A lot of green blood oozed out, corroding the ground with a sizzling sound. Then after pulling it out a few times, it stopped moving. The energy of these worker bee aliens had already been shattered by the huge force, and they were dead. The alien queen was thrown to the ground fiercely. With a loud bang, the whole pyramid seemed to shake slightly. A large number of stones fell. This alien nest had become unrecognizable. There were broken stone pillars and rubble everywhere. There were a lot of deep pits on the ground. The huge alien queen became extremely embarrassed. The originally hard shell became broken, a lot of green blood oozing out, limbs twisted, abdomen completely torn, sticky secretion slowly slid down, and it looked like it only had one breath left. It's much more honest now. Looking at the miserable alien queen, Allen nodded, snapped his fingers, and threw it into the private space. Even though it only had one breath left now, as long as it was given time, the alien queen would recover soon. The alien queen is in hand, and the next is the Iron Blood battleship. Chip, where is that Iron Blood warrior? As Allen's voice fell, the three-dimensional image of the pyramid in front of him instantly turned, then enlarged, and a figure appeared in front of him. Just as Allen was holding the alien queen as a chain ball, the Iron Warrior had already got his weapon, the shoulder-mounted particle cannon, which roared and directly blasted several aliens into pieces. The aliens that had been besieging them seemed to have suddenly received a call, and ran to the depths of the pyramid. In a blink of an eye, all the aliens that were besieging the two disappeared. The heroine and the Iron Warrior began to walk to the depths of the pyramid. They soon came to the sacrificial room, which was already full of alien eggs. The ground and the surrounding walls were covered with a thick layer of fungal blankets, which looked disgusting. On one of the walls, a thick fungal blanket wrapped several humanoid objects. When they got closer, they were the members of the expedition team, but these people had been parasitized by alien eggs. It wouldn't be long before they would drill out of their chests. Seeing this situation, the Iron Warrior, who was familiar with the characteristics of the aliens, knew that this place had to be cleaned. He stretched out his arm, clicked a few times on a 1-foot square screen on his arm, and threw it directly into the middle of the alien eggs, then made an explosion gesture, and the two turned around and ran out of the pyramid. When Allen saw the Iron Warrior, he happened to see him throwing bombs, and his eyes shrank slightly. He was quite jealous of the Iron Warrior's small bombs. They were easy to carry and powerful, comparable to small nuclear bombs. Moreover, this thing was standard equipment for the Iron Warrior, which also proved that this portable bomb could be mass-produced. This bomb was the most powerful weapon on the Iron Warrior. Once the Iron Warrior was defeated, or there were too many enemies, it would be detonated. In the technological world, mass production also means cheap cost. The power of this bomb was equivalent to a high-level spell, which was much easier than making a high-level spell scroll, and the output was far more than that. It could be said to be a very cheap weapon. Seeing that the Iron Warrior had set the explosion program, Allen did not stop. The power of this thing was not bad. Although this power could not hurt him, there was no need to resist it. With a snap of his fingers, Allen's figure instantly disappeared from the underground pyramid 2,000 meters deep, and the next moment he appeared directly on the ground, where ice and snow were howling. After coming to the ground, Allen did not reveal his trace, quietly hiding in the air. After waiting for about half a minute, a snowmobile flew out of the ice cave, followed by a violent vibration. The nearly 2,000 meters thick ice layer broke, and a large amount of wind and snow was stirred up around. It took a while to disperse. The abandoned whaling station was unrecognizable, and the buildings collapsed. After a while, two figures stood up in the ruins. Thanks to the book Friends in Kanluaguan for the 500 starting coins reward. Chapter 430 Iron Blood Battleship. Allen was invisible in mid-air. The scanning function of the chip had reached its maximum, and he was always monitoring the surrounding situation. After completing the coming-of-age ceremony, the Predator said goodbye to the heroine. A huge object was scanned by Allen's chip. This was a space battleship. The entire battleship was in stealth mode. The Predator's technology could already achieve optical invisibility. In Allen's real vision, he clearly saw the entire battleship. This Predator battleship was more than 5 kilometers long, 1 kilometer high, and 2 kilometers wide. The entire battleship looked like a trident, with the middle part being the main body of the battleship. The appearance of the battleship was full of the racial style of the Predator. In Allen's sight, this powerful battleship slowly landed on the ice field. The hatch slowly opened, and 5 Predators slowly walked out. The one in the lead was more sturdy and strong, and his equipment was also much more gorgeous. Unlike other Predators, this was a Predator Elder. The Predator Elder was the oldest and most experienced among the Predators. They survived after a long war. Each of them was a good fighter, and equipped with more sophisticated weapons. The 4 behind were adult Iron Blood warriors, and traces could be seen on their masks. This was the mark after they killed the enemy, and it was also their glory. Seeing the remaining Iron Blood warrior holding a telescopic spear and then walking towards the battleship, Allen flashed and followed in. The spaceship took off again, quickly passed through the atmosphere, and returned to the universe. Allen followed the Iron Blood Elder to a lounge, and after seeing that there was no one else, he activated the spell instantly. Binding spell. Dominate humans. 2 rays of light rose in succession, directly controlling the Iron Blood Elder. Although the Iron Blood warrior race was technologically advanced and physically strong, they did not understand spells, so Allen easily controlled the Iron Blood Elder. After controlling the Iron Blood Elder to close the room, Allen appeared. Language savvy. Slavery. After successfully enslaving this Iron Blood Elder, Allen began to use the power of this Iron Blood Elder to control the battleship. Iron Blood warriors are divided according to clans. There are many different clans in the entire Iron Blood warrior, and each Iron Blood battleship is a small clan. The Iron Blood Elder that Allen enslaved belonged to the Blade clan. This clan was not large, with only a few thousand people. With the help of the Iron Blood Elder, Allen quickly enslaved all of the clan, and this Iron Blood battleship was completely controlled by Allen. During Allen's enslavement, a small episode occurred. The Iron Blood warrior who had just completed the trial of adulthood was parasitized by an alien, and completed the hatching, and turned into an Iron Blood alien. This Iron Blood alien is much stronger than those in the pyramid. Not only is the height over 3 meters, but the strength and speed have also been greatly improved. Ordinary Iron Blood warriors are not their opponents without the help of thermal weapons. But unfortunately, when he had just completed the hatching, and had not yet shown his skills, he was discovered by Allen, and then it became a material in Allen's laboratory. After completely controlling this Iron Blood clan, Allen began to look at this Iron Blood battleship. Iron Blood battleship, mothership. Standard displacement is 700 billion tons. 5.73 kilometers long, 2.42 kilometers wide, and 1.23 kilometers high. Equipped with 3 S-class large particle main guns, 36 B-class particle main guns, and 500 D-class iron secondary guns. It has a large optical stealth device that can be completely invisible, and is equipped with a fire control radar, armor, plasma shield, energy intensity air level, can withstand 5 attacks from S-class main guns. The battleship's own armor can withstand 7 attacks from the main gun. The mothership is equipped with a self-destruct device. After all the Iron Blood warriors die, in order to prevent the battleship from falling into the hands of others, it will enter self-destruction. The mothership has ancillary buildings such as a drop warehouse, a reconnaissance ship, a manufacturing center, a maintenance center, a medical center, and a training center. According to the configuration of this mothership, tens of thousands of people can live in it, and it can easily destroy a civilization like the Earth. Ilu checked the situation of the mothership, and was extremely satisfied. This kind of space battleship is powerful. However, what Allen likes most is the technical information carried on this mothership. After asking the Iron Blood Elder to translate the information, Allen began to download the chip. A large amount of data flow quickly poured into the chip, and the scientific and technological information belonging to the Iron Blood Warriors was quickly downloaded. After obtaining this knowledge, Allen began to look through various information about the Iron Blood Warriors. As a race that has entered the universe, the Iron Blood Warriors are undoubtedly powerful, but there are some other races in the universe. Although some wars broke out among the races at the beginning of the encounter, they calmed down afterwards, because they soon realized that the universe is too vast and cannot be occupied by one race. Allen found some interesting things in the database of the Iron Blood Warriors about the Earth. When the Iron Blood Warriors discovered the Earth, humans had already appeared on the Earth. However, the Earth at that time was not only human, but also had another race, that is, the Creator who created humans. This powerful civilization guided the development of humans. They used the Earth as a testing ground and destroyed it after the civilization developed to a certain extent. After that, these creators will create humans again, over and over again. The destruction recorded by the Iron Warriors alone is 3 times. However, after the last creation of humans, when humans developed to a certain extent and were ready to destroy them again, these creators had problems. Their powerful biotechnology earned them the title of creator, but it also made them more and more unscrupulous. They wanted to create a perfect biological weapon, the alien, and prepared to bring it to the Earth as their testing ground. It was just because of an accident that the biological weapon went out of control. As a result, these powerful creators suffered the consequences of their own actions and were destroyed by the biological weapons they invented. This time, humans were lucky to escape a disaster. After that, humans who were still in the early stages of civilization encountered another civilization. Unlike the Creator civilization, which was proficient in powerful biotechnology, this civilization belonged to material civilization. They were Iron Warriors. The powerful Iron Warriors were regarded by humans on Earth as gods like the Creator. After losing the guidance of the Creator, humans continued to develop under the guidance of the Predator, and the Predator regarded this place as a trial ground for their tribe's coming of age. They captured the alien queen created by the Creator, and parasitized the alien eggs laid by the alien queen in the human body to cultivate powerful aliens, and then hunted them. Chapter 431 Company. Because of the influence of the Predator and the Creator civilization, the civilization developed by humans has some characteristics of the two civilizations. After obtaining the scientific and technological information of the Predator, Allen was also full of interest in the knowledge of the Creator civilization. However, after checking the information of the Predator, Allen did not find the answer he wanted. The Predator did not know the specific location of the Creator civilization. However, Allen was not disappointed that he did not find the location information of the Creator. These creators left so many messages on the Earth. Allen did not believe that all the messages would be destroyed by them. Because Allen became the master of this Predator clan, this Predator battleship no longer returned to their home star, but docked in the synchronous orbit of the Earth. Because the Predator was divided into clans, the affairs of each clan were usually autonomous, and they would only gather to discuss when some major events occurred. Each clan has its own colony. After arranging the Warblade clan, Allen took a reconnaissance ship to return to the Earth again. Earth, the United States. Allen set up a biomedical company here and named it Umbrella with some bad taste, and then built a biotechnology experiment. Allen planned to use this company to study the aliens. Although this cosmic snake has the word snake in its name, it is not a cold-blooded animal, and its tribes have clear division of labor. There are the lowest level worker bee aliens, sentinel aliens, and soldier aliens. The brain of these aliens is the alien queen, and this structure is obviously the structural feature of the Zerg. The alien queen is responsible for laying eggs, the worker bee alien is responsible for hunting food, the sentinel alien is responsible for reconnaissance and transmission of information, and the soldier alien usually serves as a guard to protect the alien queen. In the multiverse, the Zerg is a very dangerous tribe, second only to the demons of the abyss. However, the Zerg is a very good labor force, and Allen plans to study these aliens. As for finding the information of the Creator, Allen plans to hand it over to those archaeologists. After all, professional matters should be handed over to professionals. Allen spent some money to fund more than a dozen archaeological teams in the world, allowing them to search for information about the origin of mankind worldwide. After the establishment of Umbrella Corporation, Allen needed a lot of money to invest in research. As a wizard, money is never enough, so he needs to prepare some gadgets to earn enough money for him. There are many industries that make the most money in the United States, and medical care is definitely one of the big ones. To give a simple example, Pfizer Pharmaceuticals. If you don't know this company, it's not surprising, but you definitely know a drug they produce. That is Viagra, which also has another name, Viagra. Although this company developed well before 1998, it was not a pharmaceutical giant, and it could even be said to be just a good company. But in this year, they developed a new drug, Viagra, and the company expanded rapidly. In just a few years, it became a well-known pharmaceutical giant in the world, and the company even jumped into the Fortune 500. This ingredient shows the huge profits of pharmaceutical companies, and what Allen is going to use to make money is very simple. It is also a drug used to treat cancer. This drug cannot cure cancer, its effect is to inhibit cancer cells, and this drug was deliberately made by Allen. His purpose is very clear, which is to make cancer patients take medicine for life. Although it cannot kill cancer, it can inhibit cancer cells. Therefore, as long as they insist on taking medicine, cancer cells will not continue to develop and eventually become advanced cancer. Those who want to survive can only take medicine for life. There are many links in the launch of new drugs. According to normal procedures, it takes at least several years, but Allen does not have time to wait that long, so he directly uses some wizard's means, mental suggestion plus dominating humans, and one-stop service to easily handle all the links. It took less than 3 months from approval to launch of this drug. The next step is large-scale commercial production. Allen has no interest in running a company, so he plans to hire some professional managers. This company has no assets except this drug, but since the release of the new drug, a lot of investors waving banknotes want to give money. Allen selected several of the strongest investors, and then used the money to start building a biological laboratory. For Allen's approach, these people are eager for him to continue research, so in a short time, these people built a state-of-the-art biological laboratory for Allen. At the same time, the archaeological team funded by Allen began to excavate ancient civilizations around the world, and there are many striking similarities in myths and legends around the world. For example, in most civilizations, there is a kind of giant worship. Odin in the Nordic legend, the frost giants, the Olympian gods in Greek mythology, Mesopotamia in the two rivers, ancient India, the legendary Atlantis, including the Mayan civilization, the Egyptian civilization, and even the Chinese civilization. In addition to these, there is also the destruction of the world. All civilizations have recorded the legend of the god destroying the world or the record of the great disaster. The Chinese Deus flood control, the European Catholic flood destruction, the Greek mythology Typhon's destruction, the Egyptian mythology Sekhmet's destruction. All kinds of legends have destruction of the world. Allen will not think that this is something that ancient humans made up to scare themselves. Those giants are obviously the legendary creators. These creator civilizations that created human beings led the progress of human civilization during that period. They are tall and strong, and have powers that humans at that time could not understand. Naturally, they were worshipped as gods by humans at that time. As for those myths of the destruction of the world, it should be that these creators destroyed humans for some unknown reason. If the creator civilization had not gone wrong, human civilization would still be in the cycle of birth, germination, growth, and destruction. The giant heads of Easter Island, the star maps of the Mayan civilization, and even the remaining murals of some civilizations that have long been lost in time. A large amount of information was collected and processed, and then clues about the creator were collected from this information. This process is relatively long. Allen will look at the collected information every once in a while, and then let the chip filter out the information he needs, but there is no breakthrough progress. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. we cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 432, Transformation. Umbrella Corporation, Underground Laboratory. This is the experimental base built by Allen. Although killing the aliens is just a matter of moving his fingers, this thing is still very dangerous to ordinary humans, so Allen built the laboratory underground for various reasons. In the laboratory, each culture dish is filled with various solutions, and a large number of biological tissues are soaked in them. Some large culture dishes even have some complete aliens. Although the blood of the opposite sex can corrode steel, there are still many substances that are not corroded by their blood, such as glass products, and even metals have a lot of metals that its blood cannot corrode. The telescopic spears and flying discs of the Iron Blood warriors cannot corrode these metals. What's more, Allen also added some runes on these glasses, and the blood of the aliens completely lost their effect. Moreover, the strength of these glasses blessed by hardening techniques is extremely high, and they will not be damaged, even if they are hardened by rockets. Allen built an ecological park here, through various aliens that he had transformed into the ecological park to survive, and then collected various data. Allen also collected many animals in the world for the opposite sex, to parasitize and cultivate other alien species. After Allen's research, the aliens born from parasitizing humans have the most mediocre attributes and nothing outstanding, while the aliens parasitizing those predators are more powerful, but their IQ is significantly lower. The aliens parasitizing humans have the highest intelligence, followed by primates. The lowest intelligence is the aliens parasitizing those predators. Perhaps because their bodies are too strong, they don't like to think with their brains. The aliens are very similar to the Zerg. After losing their mother, one of the other ordinary aliens will mutate. This mutation is uncontrollable. The mutated aliens will evolve into alien queens and take on the responsibility of producing alien eggs again to continue their race. However, this mutation does not last long. After producing some alien eggs, they will die soon, and a real alien queen will appear among those alien eggs. There will always be only one alien queen in an alien group. Only when this alien queen dies will a new queen be born again. Allen tried to separate these aliens so that they gave birth to different alien queens and then reproduced into different groups again. Then two different alien groups were placed in the same ecological park. Unexpectedly, these aliens from one group did not merge. Instead, a war broke out, and the war among the aliens was extremely cruel. It would only stop if the other group was completely wiped out. After research, Allen found that these aliens' recognition of the alien queen was due to a special hormone, which was only found in the alien queen. The alien queen also used this hormone to command other opposite sexes. Allen took the hormone from the alien queen and applied it to a sheep, then put the alien queen away. The group of aliens actually regarded the goat as the alien queen. Allen dissected the alien queen and found the organ that synthesized hormones for the alien queen. After spending some time to cut out this organ, the aliens and the original population no longer recognized the alien queen, and even aliens besieged the alien queen. After a thorough study of the aliens, Allen found that the aliens had many limitations. Although they could absorb the genes of other organisms and add them to themselves, they could not parasitize in the bodies of demonized animals. Allen took out several demonized creatures from the wizard world and parasitized them with facehuggers. The results surprised Allen. The alien eggs that entered the demonized creatures did not hatch, but were digested by the demonized creatures. This result was embarrassing. Allen was originally planning to parasitize the aliens on the demonized creatures and get stronger aliens, but he found that it was completely unworkable. After the parasitism failed, Allen began to study the genetic composition of the aliens. He planned to transform the aliens into cheap labor like worker ants. The strength of the aliens in this world is not bad, but compared with the wizard world, it is only the strength of the night level. This strength can only serve as cannon fodder on the battlefield. Moreover, the growth space of the alien is limited. Its strength is attributed to the organism it parasitizes. After maturity, there will be no more changes. The construction of Allen's floating city requires a lot of labor. Although the wizards are provided by the Five Rings Tower, the construction of the city requires various ores. Allen plans to turn these aliens into mining slaves to provide him with a steady supply of ores. Aliens are actually very suitable for miners. First of all, they only need to control the alien queen, and the other aliens will be tamed. These aliens are strong, and their claws are sharp. It is very convenient to dig rocks, and the consumption is not high. As long as Allen completes their transformation, these aliens are the best miners, and they don't need to spend money. Just provide some cheap food, and these hard-working cosmic snakes will dig enough ore. Allen plans to use the transformed aliens as one of the basic equipment of the floating city, specifically used to dig various minerals. Compared with the expensive golem puppets, it is much cheaper. If they are useless, they will be directly destroyed humanely. Just leave an alien queen egg. In a very short time, the alien queen will hatch a new alien race. This kind of easy to carry, low cost, hard-working, and reliable miner team is exactly what wizards need. After discovering the limitations of the alien creature, Allen changed the direction of research and began to pull it back from the deviated path and transformed it into a miner. After spending some time, Allen successfully edited the alien's genes according to his ideas. After the transformation, the new aliens no longer grew parasitically. Allen added some Zerg genes to them, and they became oviparous. After being born and eating, the aliens would mature in a very short time. The claws of the new aliens became more suitable for digging, and the tongue was also modified to crush rocks, making it easier to dig ore. The carapace on the back of the body was transformed into a backpack shape to facilitate the transportation of ore. After the transformation was completed, Allen collected the new alien eggs, and the other aliens were destroyed, after leaving a few original species. These various aliens, which numbered as many as hundreds, had limited value. They were all parasitic on other creatures on the earth. Their strength varied greatly, and their potential was very low. There was no need for development. Chapter 433 Interstellar Travel. Egypt, in a ruined pyramid. A team of archaeologists were sorting out the burial objects inside. After opening a secret room, a strange picture appeared in front of everyone. In the picture, a group of humans were kneeling down to worship a tall giant. There were some strange black spots painted on the left side of the giant, and many obscure hieroglyphs were carved on the wall. In the UK, on the Isle of Skye in Scotland, in an ancient cave, a group of archaeologists discovered the remains of an ancient human. In this ancient cave with a history of 35,000 years, a strange and abstract image appeared in front of everyone. The image simply outlined a group of humans kneeling down to worship a giant, and there were some strange black spots painted next to the giant. Babylon. Summer. In the following months, the pictures found one after another were sent to Allen. These similar pictures found in different regions attracted Allen's attention. These ancient civilizations have never communicated with each other, and there is no connection between them, but they have such similar murals. Each picture shows that humans worship giants, and in each picture, the giants point to those black spots. Allen scanned these black spots, and found that the positions of these black spots were almost exactly the same. Allen, who had a guess in his mind, compared the Milky Way star map obtained from the Predator. As expected, Allen found a galaxy in the Milky Way that was exactly the same as the one in the image 3.69 billion light years away from the Earth. There is a galaxy that is exactly the same as the one in the image. This galaxy also has a sun and a planet that is very similar to the Earth. Allen was in a good mood. After finding the desired result, Allen performed a cloning technique and cloned himself. This clone did not have the blood of a dragon, but was just a normal human. His strength was only at the level of a first level wizard. After splitting a wisp of soul, he integrated it into the clone. This clone will continue to live on the Earth instead of Allen. After obtaining the specific information of the creator, Allen began to take the Predator's spaceship to that galaxy. So far, humans cannot do this kind of long distance navigation. Mana filament is very simple for Predator. The huge iron blood battleship restarted, got rid of the gravity of the Earth and the Sun, and flew towards the target galaxy. After spending more than a month, the iron blood battleship appeared in this distant galaxy. Through the thick porthole, Allen can clearly see the deep universe. The universe is silent, and countless stars are shining quietly in the darkness. Allen's sight quickly shifted to the destination, which is a planet very similar to the Earth, with high mountains, canyons and plains. On the Iron Blood battleship, Allen was lying on a chair, and in front of him was a virtual display screen, which officially showed the destination planet this time, and a lot of data about the planet was marked next to it. Atmospheric composition: nitrogen content 71%, oxygen content 21%, carbon dioxide content 3%, argon content detected, silicon dioxide, electromagnetic atoms are unstable, and electromagnetic storms are prone to occur. Looking at this planet code named LV-223. Allen's eyes flickered with a strange look. Turn on the metal detector and detect the mineral resources on the planet, Allen said, and then the detection radar began to scan the planet, and the data was marked out in a short while. Allen looked at it and was a little disappointed. The mineral deposits here are close to those on Earth, and there are no rare resources. Allen inputted the data of magic, or in the wizard world, into the central computer of this Iron Blood battleship, hoping to find magic, or with the power of technology. During this period of space travel, he passed many planets, but did not find magic ore. It seems that this world is a purely technological world. However, although the magic ore that Allen wanted was not found, the detection radar found something else on this planet. Under Allen's control, the three-dimensional image of the planet in front of him began to enlarge, and soon the surface of the planet appeared in front of Allen. On this planet, a red area was marked. This area is located on a plane. Allen clicked it and something that looked like a base appeared on it. The base was covered with a thick metal layer, and there was a layer of soil on it. Under the metal layer, there were some things like Gwasangs quietly parked inside. The spacecraft landed in this area. Let's go down and take a look. Allen pointed to the red area on the planet and ordered. Yes, Master. Several Iron Blood warriors behind him saluted respectfully. The huge warship slowly entered the atmosphere, then flew towards that area, and soon drove over the base. The warship did not land. Allen and several Iron Blood warriors boarded a landing ship and slowly landed on the planet. The ship scans the surrounding environment. As the voice fell, a large amount of data appeared in Allen's mind. Arriving on the surface of the planet, Allen got off the landing ship directly. The gravity is good. It's almost the same as the Earth. The temperature is a bit high, and the carbon dioxide in the air is a bit high. Ordinary people will die soon if exposed here. Go there. After looking at the map marked on the chip, Allen pointed to a place covered by rocks not far away. In the chip scan, that location is the entrance of this base. The group did not hesitate, and drove the landing ship directly towards the rocks. The interior of the mountain was hollow. The peak was hollowed out artificially. Under the rocks was a spaceship of the Creator. Compared with the Predator's spaceship, the Creator's spaceship is much weaker, but this is normal. The Martial Universe race like the Predator will naturally build their motherships to be extremely powerful, while the Creator's spaceship looks more like a scientific research spaceship with extremely limited military equipment. A Predator's mothership can deal with all the Creator's spaceships without any damage, but this does not mean that the Creator's technology is weaker than that of the Predator, but the development direction is different. Unlike the Predator, a race that pursues force, the Creator race pursues creation more. The biotechnology of this race is extremely advanced, and they have transformed their own genes very well through technology. Compared with humans, they have a longer lifespan and their physical fitness is far superior to that of humans. After processing the scanned information, the chip passed it to Allen. At this time, he already knew that this planet was not the Creator's main planet, but a military base. This place is a biochemical factory, which is a place dedicated to the production and research of biochemical weapons. Chapter 434 Creator, Engineer. The chip marked the scanned objects, and Allen saw the densely packed cans at a glance. These cans were the earliest forms of the opposite sex. The alien protozoa created by the engineers were the black solutions in these cans. Allen had no use for these things, but they were still extremely dangerous to the people in this world. Allen followed the corridor of the spaceship to a sealed door. There was a headless corpse over 2 meters tall lying at the door. He kicked it with his foot and the corpse turned over. Detect the time of death. He waved his hand, and the Iron Blood warrior behind him squatted down and took out an item for scanning, and then said, "The time of death is 2000 years ago." Then he tore off the spacesuit on the corpse. The corpse inside had become a pile of skeletons. Seeing that there was nothing, Allen waved his hand and indicated to throw it away directly. Then he shifted his gaze and looked at the door in front of him. This door was tightly sealed, firmly sealing the inside. Next to the door was a large number of strange characters that combined hieroglyphs and cuneiforms. This kind of writing has a deep origin with the language of the early civilization on Earth. It can be confirmed that the language on Earth evolved from these writings. Seeing this, Allen knew that he had found the right place. This place was indeed left by the creator civilization. Chip, analyze these languages. A spiritual light that was invisible to the naked eye swept across, and then a translucent window appeared in front of Allen. The translated text appeared in front of Allen. Biochemical culture room number 13. Alien prototype storage room. There were also warning words written next to it, such as extreme danger, sealed storage, no leakage, etc. There was also an opening button next to it. Allen reached out and clicked it. The door that had been closed for 2000 years slowly opened, and the closed space began to contact the outside air. After being closed for so long, it quickly underwent an oxidation reaction when it came into contact with oxygen. Behind the door, hundreds of jars containing alien prototypes were neatly placed. After being exposed to the air, black liquid began to slowly seep out. Allen frowned. Although these liquids were not very threatening, they were still disgusting. He snapped his fingers, and a flame appeared instantly, burning all the heterosexual prototypes. After all the heteromorphs were burned to ashes and the air was exchanged several times, Allen entered the room. As soon as he entered, he saw a huge stone mural in front of him. The monster carved on it looked like the alien queen. Allen searched it and found nothing valuable. After leaving the room, Allen continued to search in the spaceship. Soon he came to a strange place where a large number of engineer corpses were piled up. All the heads of the corpses were exploded, and the corpses were piled up very high. Allen roughly calculated that there were no less than hundreds of them here alone. Allen knew without guessing that all these corpses were engineers infected with heteromorphic protozoa. These engineers wanted to destroy mankind for some unknown purpose, so they created this biological weapon. However, things did not go as they imagined. Humanity was destroyed, but because of an accident, these engineers suffered the consequences and were killed by the weapons they created. After looking at these corpses, Allen jumped over and followed the scanned map to the main control room of the spaceship. The style of the engineer's spaceship is completely different from that of the Predator's spaceship. This spaceship looks more like a biological spaceship. The entire spaceship has a hard exoskeleton on its surface, and the spaceship is well protected. After 2000 years, this spaceship has not been damaged or aged. Standing in the main control room, Allen came to the operating table of the spaceship and clicked a few buttons on the console. Then the tall seat slowly turned, and a saved image appeared in front of Allen. Several tall figures came to the control room through the passage. One of them sat directly on the console, and then the seat turned to the console again. The light and shadow picked up a tubular instrument next to the console and gently played a piece of music, and the console started. The console of this spaceship is very strange. It is not a mechanical creation, but rather a biological creature, like countless biological neurons. The engineer controls the spaceship by controlling these neurons. Watching the light and shadow controlling the spaceship, a star map appeared in front of Alo above the console. This star map is exactly the planetary map, where Allen is now. After that, the star map began to rotate under the control of the light and shadow, and soon found the solar system, and locked the Earth. Seeing this, Allen understood that the destination of this spaceship was the Earth. After these engineers created the alien, they were going to drop it on the Earth. Allen had scanned the spaceship, which contained more than 100,000 jars of alien protozoa. If this thing was dropped on the Earth, with the Earth's technology, it would not take long for all the animals on the Earth to become extinct, leaving only some plants. With two sneers, Allen was very disgusted with these so-called creators. Although he had no relationship with the humans in this world, and even had no blood relationship except for their similar appearance, He was still very disgusted with this act of exterminating humans. Haha, creator? Just because you have mastered some advanced biotechnology, you really think you can control the world? Allen said sarcastically to the light and shadow in front of him. Without stopping, Allen walked towards the room next to the main control room, opened the closed hatch, and revealed a circular passage. On both sides of the passage were hung several biological exoskeleton spacesuits worn by the creator. Walking inside, there was a huge circular platform. The four corners of the platform were strange life support capsules. The life support capsules were intact. 3 of them were empty, and one of them had a humanoid creature lying inside. Scan the chip to see if it's still alive. A flash of inspiration came to him. The technology of this life support capsule is quite good. It's still alive, after sleeping for 2000 years. Allen's eyes lit up, after looking at the data given by the chip. Then he waved his hand and said, "Open it." The 2 Iron Blood warriors behind him pressed the buttons of the life support capsule several times, and then a green light rose, and the life support capsule lit up. The glass cover slowly opened, revealing the sleeping alien inside. This alien looked very similar to humans, about 2 meters and 2 meters tall, with fair skin, a strong body, and no hair on the surface, which looked a bit weird. Chapter 435 Awakening. Is this the creator, engineer? Looking at the alien in front of him, Allen curled his lips. A person who is about 2 meters and 23 meters tall is a giant. What about the hill giants in the wizarding world, who are over 4 meters tall? After the life support capsule was opened, the shock state was lifted, and the engineer in front of him slowly regained consciousness, then opened his eyes, and stood up from the life support capsule. As he stood up, he revealed a tall and burly body, white skin, dark and deep eyes, strong and solid muscles, and a body of more than 2 meters tall. These images are very consistent with the aesthetic standards of ancient Europeans. According to the aesthetic standards of Europeans, he fully meets the standards of a perfect human being, with a body full of strength, well-proportioned muscles, and a whole person who looks very masculine. The body of this engineer is the same as the statue of David created by Michelangelo, which fully conforms to the aesthetics of Europeans. You ask me, who is David? It's the man who stands shirtless all day long and shows off. Ugh. The engineer squatted down and retched to relieve the discomfort of just waking up from shock. After a while, he looked at Allen and the others. He first looked at Allen, then his eyes jumped directly over and looked at the Iron Blood warriors. What should I call you? Creator or destroyer or engineer? You actually know our language. The engineer looked at Allen in surprise, but as if he had thought of something, he continued, "It should be those Iron Blood warriors who taught you. As a test subject, you should still be in the wild period, but why did the Iron Blood warriors bring you here? I think you got one thing wrong. I'm not a human created by you." Allen looked at the engineer and said disdainfully, "I'm curious, after you created humans and taught them civilization, why did you choose to destroy them? An experiment is an experiment. There is no reason. We were able to create humans, and we can also destroy them. Creating humans is just a small experiment of our great civilization. We destroyed them and created them again in order to obtain experimental data and also to study ourselves. As an experiment, you only need to obey," the engineer said contemptuously, and the destruction of humans seemed to be a trivial matter. Haha, as expected, you are full of confidence in the biotechnology you have mastered and believe that you can control everything. You can create or destroy at your will. You created humans just to show I can, but in the end you were destroyed by the biological weapons you created. Isn't it ironic? Allen chuckled and said disdainfully, "You think you are omnipotent and treat yourself like a god, but you forget that you are also mortals. You will feel pain, hunger, and blood. Although your body has undergone biological transformation and gained a long life, you will still die. It can be said that your pride ruined you." Raw. Stimulated by Allen's words, as if it was poked in a sore spot, the engineer became extremely angry. With a roar, he rushed towards Allen and wanted to kill Allen directly. The struggle of a mortal. Allen showed a mocking look at the corner of his mouth, and then the engineer's apostrophe body instantly stiffened and could not move. The engineer, who found his body abnormal, looked at Allen in surprise. He could not understand this kind of power at all. Just when he was still surprised, Allen waved his hand, and then his body was instantly hit by a strong force. His back hit the wall behind him hard, and then he fell heavily. Allen snapped his fingers, and a huge palm directly grabbed him, and moved in front of Allen. Impossible. As a test subject, how could he master such power? The engineer could not accept that the test subject he created mastered the mysterious power unknown to them. I said I was not created by you. Allen rolled his eyes, and then snapped his fingers. Dominate humans. Psychic suggestion. Slavery. A series of spiritual lights rose up, and the eyes of the engineer in front of him began to become blurred and dull, and recovered after a while. Copy all the scientific and technological information here, and give it to me. Allen ordered directly. Yes. The engineer stood up with a dull look, then walked out of the hibernation cabin, and came to the main control room of the spacecraft outside. He skillfully started the spacecraft, and green lights lit up one after another. The spacecraft that had been sleeping for 2000 years started again. After starting the spacecraft, the creator began to download the information. This place is the military base of the engineer and the research center for biological and chemical weapons. There is a lot of information in it. Not long after, the engineer downloaded all the information according to Allen's requirements. Reaching out to take the information, the Iron Blood warrior behind him took out a computer, and Allen directly installed it, and started to check. As he expected, this engineer civilization has deep attainments in biotechnology. Their spaceship is actually a product of the combination of biology and machinery. The entire spaceship is a living organism. However, this biological spaceship has no intelligence. The control nerves of this spaceship are all connected to the control console of the spaceship. The driver will be able to connect these central nerves to operate the spaceship. The outer shell of the spaceship is an exoskeleton, and there is also a metal structure inside. The spaceship has a self-repair function. As long as the damage is not too serious, it will repair itself. This is why these spaceships are still basically intact after 2000 years. After Allen simply checked the information, he connected the chip to the computer, and collected all the knowledge, and copied it down. The knowledge of the two different civilizations has a great inspiration to Allen. He plans to integrate it into the wizard's knowledge system after fully digesting it. Although the wizard's knowledge is powerful, it has low adaptability. It can only be used after becoming a wizard. The knowledge on the technology side is very different. The items on the technology side have no requirements for the operator. As long as you know how to operate, you can do it. Compared to wizards, who often have to be wizards to control them, ordinary people can also use technological items after training. Allen is going to try to apply some of the technology to the floating city he is building. After collecting information, Allen began to enter other areas of the base. After all, as a military base, there are still many other things here. Allen is going to see if there is anything he needs. Thanks to the book friends Milo and Harley Quinn and Ulawihan for the 100 starting coins reward. Chapter 436 Reconstruction. After entering the base, Allen found that there were other spaceships here. It must be said that the aesthetics of the engineer civilization is very strange. What do they think of this ring-shaped spaceship that looks like a croissant? Allen took a simple look and found that the spaceship here was loaded with a large number of heterogeneous protozoa. Allen rolled his eyes. He really couldn't understand what these engineer civilizations were thinking. The heterogeneous protozoa were just some black liquids. They were very small microorganisms that could invade the bodies of other organisms and parasitize. They were very infectious. It would not take so many to destroy mankind, not even the heterogeneous protozoa in a spaceship. With the speed of these things spreading, once there is no limit, it will only take a short time to spread throughout the world. It is precisely because of its strong infectiousness that these engineers who are seeking death are killed. The piles of things in front of him were just an eyesore. Allen frowned and snapped his fingers. Negative energy fluctuation * 9. Super magic skills magic shaping. A wave of cold negative energy swept back and forth. This spell was modified by a Lu. It changed the negative energy tentacles into ripples and spread in all directions. This spell absorbs the vitality of the objects it touches. It will not cause harm to inanimate objects. The power of this spell is limited. Even if an ordinary person is swept by this spell, at most he will feel weak for a period of time and lose some vitality, but for some small insects, it will directly drain their weak vitality. For heterosexual protozoa, this spell is their nemesis. When heterosexual protozoa are not parasitic on living things, they are microorganisms, and their vitality is not even comparable to that of insects. After being touched by this spell, they will be drained of vitality and die. After Allen released the spell, all the heterosexual protozoa here died. Then Allen began to check this military base. Because this base is mainly used to develop biological and chemical weapons, there are many experimental equipments, which are much better than the batch that Allen got on Earth before. Seeing such things, Allen will naturally not let them go. All the experimental equipments left by the creator fell into his pocket. Sometimes equipment is more precious than knowledge. For example, some things, in fact, the manufacturing technology and principles have long been known to everyone, but you just can't make them. What's the reason? The manufacturing process is not up to standard, and the equipment is not up to standard. Just like the United States and some countries have imposed an embargo on China, most of the things on it are high-tech machinery and equipment. Doesn't China know the manufacturing principles of these mechanical equipment? Of course, it is clear, but what if you know it? If the manufacturing process is not up to standard, you can't make it, even if you know the theory clearly. So, many times it is not a matter of knowing or not, but the reason of your basic equipment. After getting these equipments, Allen found the operation process in the data, and learned to operate various machines. As for this planet, Allen plans to transform it into a colony planet. With the technology of two interstellar civilizations, the Iron Blood Warrior and the Engineer, it is not a difficult problem to transform a planet, and this planet is not bad. At least there is enough oxygen on it, but the carbon dioxide content is high. There is almost no vegetation on the surface of the planet, which requires a lot of time to cultivate. It will take some time to transform this planet into a habitable planet. This planet is rich in resources, and Allen plans to use this planet as the base of this world. Because the Engineer has already built a complete base here, Allen did not choose another address, and started directly from here. Although the transformation of the atmosphere can be completed by planting plants, it takes too long, so Allen decided to build a large-scale atmospheric transformation equipment, and also to accumulate experience in building a floating city. The technologies of both the Predator and the Engineer have their own focuses, one focusing on physical machinery and the other focusing on biological genetic technology. The two are very complementary. Allen feels that, if the technologies of both sides are thoroughly understood and integrated, the resulting technology will be more perfect. If Allen alone wants to complete this kind of work, it may take decades. After all, no matter how powerful he is, this is the accumulation of hundreds of thousands of years of two civilizations. So this requires everyone to work together. Fortunately, there are people in the Predator who are responsible for research, and together with the scientists of the Engineer civilization that Allen enslaved, this somewhat hasty research center was officially established. The first thing this research center did after its establishment was to transform the appearance of the Iron Blood Warriors. These guys were too ugly, with 4-petal mouths, claws on top, such a big head, and dense braids that looked very coquettish. Allen felt that they were not pleasing to the eye. After obtaining the biotechnology of the creator civilization, he planned to combine the knowledge of wizards to give these Iron Blood Warriors plastic surgery. Otherwise, Allen could not stand facing these ugly monsters all day long. Moreover, these Iron Blood Warriors also like to wear mesh tights. This problem must be changed. It was too hot to the eyes. As for whether the Iron Blood Warriors would accept it or not, it was not within Allen's consideration. Soon, the first Iron Blood Warrior who accepted the transformation was completed. Because Allen was transforming at the genetic level, the descendants of the Iron Blood Warriors who were transformed would not look like the ghosts before. After the transformation, the ferocious mouthparts of the Iron Blood Warriors were cancelled and turned into normal mouths. The claws on the limbs were also close to humans. The head was reduced a lot, and those hairstyles were also cancelled. Allen could not accept their hairstyles. The transformed Predator Warriors are more in line with human aesthetics. As for their physical fitness, Allen also improved it to a certain extent, making these predator warriors stronger. After the transformation was completed, other predator warriors suddenly began to take the initiative to ask Allen to accept the transformation. This surprised Allen, because although they did not oppose the transformation experiment before, they did not support it, and even had some resistance. Allen used slavery to force them to carry out it. Unexpectedly, after the first one was completed, these predator warriors actually took the initiative to ask for it. Could it be that this true fragrance theorem has become so powerful? Have they accepted Allen's aesthetics? After Allen's questioning, Allen finally figured out that these predator warriors did not accept his aesthetics, but they found that the transformed predator warriors were much stronger than before. This is a huge temptation for predator warriors who advocate the use of force. Aesthetics or not is not important. What is important is strength. Chapter 437 Planet Transformation Plan. Since these iron-blooded warriors were very willing to accept the transformation, then things became very smooth. After more than a month of transformation experiments, the entire Warblade clan was completely transformed, and the iron-blooded warriors of this clan were closer to humans than before. After completing the racial transformation, Allen began to build an atmospheric transformation reaction tower. The height of this reaction tower is as high as tens of thousands of meters. A large number of gas exchange channels are built on it. These channels are connected to other reaction chambers. After sucking in the air of this planet, it is transformed into an atmospheric environment close to the Earth through a series of chemical reactions. At the same time, Allen also used biotechnology to transform a batch of plants and prepared to green the planet. The plants on this planet, code-named LV-223, are scarce, and it looks bare, with weathered rocks everywhere. The afforestation project is a long-term project. Because there are not many people, Allen is going to design and research some robots to complete this afforestation task. Robots of this level are not difficult for the two civilizations, and soon the robots Allen requested were built. After some testing, the robots were adjusted and transformed again, and large-scale production was carried out directly when needed. There is water on this planet, but not much. There is no ocean, and most of it appears in the form of groundwater. The water source problem needs to be solved. After testing, it was found that the soil on the planet is not suitable for plant growth, which requires the help of biotechnology for transformation. The high concentration of carbon dioxide has caused the temperature of this planet to be relatively high, and many places have become desertified. Allen handed these transformation plans to the Iron Blood Warrior and the engineer to host them. He is going to hatch the transformed aliens. The aliens have strong adaptability and are very resistant to high temperatures and extreme cold. Even in the universe, they can survive for a short time. The environment of this planet is not bad, and the aliens can adapt easily. Allen needs to perfect the aliens in this world and transform them into suitable labor. The parasites Allen used this time are dwarves. With the help of the creator's biological cloning technology, enough dwarves are cloned, and then the aliens parasitize them. These aliens will serve as the basic labor force for transforming the planet. This creator military base will also be gradually demolished, and a new type of city will replace it. Because of the lack of plants, there are many deserts on this planet, and silica is spread all over the planet, so there are often strong sandstorms here. Fortunately, this planet has a magnetosphere, so it does not need to be artificially manufactured. The magnetosphere has many functions, and the most important one is to protect the planet's atmosphere. The magnetosphere is formed by the interaction between the planet's magnetic field and the stellar wind, and the original magnetic field lines of the planet are compressed into a limited space by the stellar wind. The stellar wind is a supersonic plasma-charged particle flow ejected from the upper atmosphere of the star, and this stellar wind exists continuously. If there is no planetary magnetic field to block it, these stellar winds can blow away the atmosphere of the entire planet. On Earth, the United States once proposed a Mars transformation plan. They designed 3 plans to transform the atmosphere of Mars. The first is to set up a mirror with a diameter of more than 120 kilometers in the orbit of Mars, and use the mirror to reflect sunlight to melt the water on Mars and release a large amount of gas. However, this mirror is too large and human technology cannot do it yet. The second is to capture asteroids to hit Mars. Many asteroids are composed of frozen ammonia, which is an important greenhouse gas. This plan is much more reliable, but it is still very difficult. The third option is to build factories on Mars to produce greenhouse gases. After calculation, this option is the easiest to implement and can be achieved with current technology. However, there is a fatal flaw in these problems. That is, the magnetic field of Mars is extremely weak. The magnetic field of Mars is only 1/1000th of that of the Earth. Such a strong magnetic field cannot form its own magnetosphere at all. Without the protection of the magnetosphere, the solar wind will blow most of the atmosphere directly into the universe, so these options are impossible to implement before solving the magnetic field of Mars. There is no ocean on this planet, but there is water. After testing, it was found that the water content on this planet is 1/10 of that on the Earth, and most of it exists in the form of groundwater. There is also water vapor in the air. It will also rain on this planet, but the dry environment will quickly evaporate the water. Water is the source of life and an important part of maintaining ecological balance. Allen plans to capture some asteroids containing a lot of ice in the universe and impact them, which will bring enough water to the planet and eventually form an ocean. Next, the Predator began to look for suitable asteroids in the surrounding universe, and then installed ion thrusters on these asteroids to change their orbits. When they were captured by the gravity of the LV-223 planet, they would collide with each other. After calculation, these asteroids are about 1 kilometer in diameter, which is the most suitable, and the damage caused by the collision is within an acceptable range. The total amount of water on Earth is 1.386 billion cubic kilometers. 1 cubic kilometer is 1 billion tons of water, and an asteroid with a diameter of 1 kilometer carries less than 1 cubic kilometer of water. If you want to reach the standard of the Earth, you need 1 billion such asteroids. Such a large project will take a lot of time even for the Predator and the Creator. So the best way is to find a few large enough asteroids made of ice, and after transporting them to the appropriate gravitational range, directly detonate them into a large number of fragments. These broken asteroids will come to the LV-223 planet under the action of gravity, and you can also watch a magnificent meteor shower. After the transformation plan was formulated, all spacecraft took off to find suitable asteroids. There is an asteroid belt in this star system, where a large number of asteroids gather. After spending some time, a suitable asteroid was found. The next step is to install ion thrusters on it to change its orbit. This work is not difficult. After installing the plasma thrusters, these asteroids began to slowly change their orbits and move towards the set destination. After these asteroids reach the predetermined orbit, they will be divided into asteroids with a diameter of less than 1 kilometer by the Iron Blood battleship, and then these asteroids will hit the LV-223 planet under the action of gravity. With the first asteroid arriving at the predetermined position, the project officially started. Chapter 438 Ocean. LV-223 planet outer space, in a synchronous orbit 30 kilometers from the surface of the planet. An asteroid with a volume of more than 10 kilometers is orbiting here, and the Iron Blood battleship next to it is ready. Scan the asteroid. Calculating the cutting plan. Allen looked at the asteroid quietly. If such a large asteroid hits the Earth, it will cause a huge disaster that will destroy the world. However, the Earth has actually experienced this disaster once 65 million years ago. An asteroid with a diameter of about 10 kilometers hit the Earth. This asteroid hit the Gulf of Mexico, causing a huge tsunami and a global fire. The tsunami reached a height of 1,500 meters. The Earth was flooded, the forests were burned, and the smoke and dust covered the sky and the sun, which lasted all year round, and the dinosaurs became extinct. This disaster caused the Earth to enter the Ice Age, and this asteroid can do the same. The cutting plan has been established. A mechanical voice sounded, and Allen looked up at the virtual imaging display in front of him. I saw that the three-dimensional image of the asteroid in front of me had been divided into thousands of asteroids directly about 1 kilometer. The entire cutting plan requires the use of hundreds of reconnaissance ships to cooperate. Prepare to execute the cutting plan. As Allen gave the order, the Iron Blood warship released a large number of reconnaissance ships, and the reconnaissance ships soon arrived at the predetermined orbit and followed the movement of the asteroid. Calculating the predetermined orbit. The splitting plan has been confirmed. Spaceship number 1 has arrived at the designated location. Spaceship number 2 has arrived at the designated location. Spaceship number 105 has arrived at the designated location. The spaceship is running normally. Gravity is normal. Start. With an order, the reconnaissance ship that had been prepared long ago released a bright plasma ray, which directly hit the asteroid running on the orbit. As the asteroid rotated, the plasma ray cut quickly. One reconnaissance ship after another continuously fired plasma rays, and soon the asteroid with a size of more than 10 kilometers was broken down into asteroids directly 1 kilometer in size. After the disintegration, the asteroid began to fly towards the LV-223 planet under the influence of the planet's gravity. Along the way, reconnaissance ships kept adjusting their directions to allow these asteroids to hit along the predetermined orbit. After flying for a few days, these asteroids began to enter the atmosphere. In the intense friction, the volume of the asteroids shrank rapidly and continued to disintegrate. A large amount of ice began to melt, and water vapor diffused in the atmosphere. Because most of these asteroids are ice, their mass and structure are far less solid than those of metal asteroids, so many of them shrank rapidly after entering the atmosphere. By the time they hit the ground, they had broken into hundreds of large and small pieces. The small ones were burned up before they fell to the ground, and the remaining ones did not cause too much disaster. As more and more asteroids entered, the water vapor in the atmosphere reached its limit, and global rainfall began to appear. This rainfall lasted for more than a month. After the rain ended, lakes began to appear on the surface of the planet. These lakes were scattered all over the surface of the planet. After seeing that the plan went smoothly, Allen began to continue to carry asteroids. Asteroids were loaded with plasma thrusters to reach the predetermined orbits here. After scanning and calculating on the predetermined orbits, they were cut by reconnaissance ships. The disintegrated asteroids began to hit the planet along the predetermined orbit. This set of processes became more and more proficient, and the LV-223 planet was also undergoing huge changes visible to the naked eye. The ground in the low-lying areas began to gradually gather into lakes. After the lakes gathered to a certain extent, they began to overflow. The turbulent water washed the earth, forming rivers. The rivers washed away the silt, broke through the rocks, and then gathered into rivers. Then they continued to rush forward and finally gathered in the low-lying areas of the planet. The ocean began to form gradually. The continuous impact caused the planet to shake. Volcanoes erupted, and the entire planet entered an active period. After the last asteroid hit the LV-223 planet, Allen stopped the action and began to wait. The planet returned to normal. The continuous impact kept the planet in a state of disaster. The dust caused by the impact covered the sky. The temperature of the planet began to drop, and the global precipitation began to form an early ocean. Everything was transformed according to plan. The formation of the ocean and the emergence of rivers and lakes made the water source of this planet abundant. As time went on, a complete water source cycle was slowly formed. After a year, the global precipitation began to slowly decrease. The violent volcanic eruptions gradually subsided and entered a dormant period. Rivers appeared on the surface of the planet. Glaciers were formed during this period, and a large number of ice caps appeared at the north and south poles. The temperature of the entire planet is close to 0 degrees. If it is not interfered with, the planet will soon enter an ice age. It may take thousands of years for it to freeze naturally and survive the ice age. Allen naturally cannot wait that long, so the second planet transformation plan is launched. After seeing the planet return to calm, Allen began the next transformation. At this time, there was still a lot of dust suspended in the sky. These dusts block the sunlight, causing the temperature on the surface of the planet to continue to drop. The drop in temperature caused the water to freeze. When the dust in the sky dissipated and the sunlight could shine directly, the surface of the planet was covered with ice. Carbon dioxide was also frozen during the freezing process. The ice layer will reflect most of the sunlight from the star into space. The concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere will decrease, and it will not be able to prevent heat from radiating, so the planet will become colder and colder. This situation is naturally not allowed by Allen, and soon the atmospheric transformation equipment that had been prepared long ago began to be built on the surface of the planet. The atmospheric transformation equipment with a height of 10,000 meters transformed the atmosphere according to Allen's requirements. A large amount of dust was absorbed, sunlight reappeared, and the temperature on the surface of the planet began to rise. After the temperature reached a certain level, Allen began to release planting robots to plant plants on the surface of the planet. At the same time, the first city on the planet began to be built. The new generation of aliens cultivated by Allen also began to be released. Under the command of the Alien Queen, these aliens began to participate in the process of building the city. Although the Iron Blood Warrior and the Engineer civilization can build enough robots for construction, the transformation of the planetary environment has consumed a lot of energy during this period. Although there are various ways to supplement it, the energy of the Iron Blood battleship and the Engineer spacecraft has reached the warning value, and it takes time to accumulate energy. Thanks to the book friend DanIZODD for the 1000 starting coins reward. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 439 Bioenergy. Engineers is more bioenergy. They have created a bioenergy host through biological modification, gene induction, and genetic modification technology. This energy host will generate energy through photosynthesis or digestion of organic matter and other methods. It is a clean and renewable energy source. The bioenergy host consumes very few resources and can continuously generate energy. This energy will be stored in the energy host and released when needed. However, this bioenergy host is large in size and has a relatively low energy output. If you want to increase the energy output power, you need to continuously expand the volume. Now 1/5 of the Engineer's spacecraft is placed on the bioenergy host. Now after a lot of consumption, the stored energy has been exhausted. The energy used by the Predator is nuclear fusion technology, which they have already perfected. As for the more advanced antimatter, they are only studying it. Compared with bioenergy, nuclear fusion produces more energy, but the threshold is very high. Allen obtained the information on the nuclear fusion of the Predator, which is of great help to his research on the upgraded version of the element furnace, element fusion. Perhaps it won't be long before he will overcome the difficult problem of element fusion and build a larger floating city. Moreover, the bioenergy host technology of the Engineers is also very promising. Allen thinks that compared with elemental fusion, this bioenergy is more adaptable. The bioenergy host will produce some byproducts, such as water, according to the various organic substances consumed or photosynthesis. Moreover, the bioenergy host also has an automatic repair function. Even if it is damaged, as long as it is not damaged more than 50%, it will be completely repaired after a period of time. This function is very powerful. You don't have to worry about the floating city encountering accidental damage in the star world. This is a blessing for the exploration of the star world, because in the star world, you never know what you will encounter, and once the energy of the floating city is damaged, it will become a piece of countless garbage floating in the star world. The bioenergy host is now only using the creatures of this world for transformation. In the wizard world, there are a large number of unique creatures. Those creatures combined with the biological transformation technology of the creator may create a more powerful bioenergy host. The transformation of the LV-223 planet is progressing steadily. Allen gave this planet a new name, Aquamarine. Because of global rainfall, the ocean now occupies 90% of the area of this planet. However, this is only temporary. After a while, the ocean will return to normal, and a large amount of water will seep into the ground. By then, the sea area of this planet will occupy about 70% of the planet's surface area. In the base of the Engineer, Allen found a biological gene bank that was stored in cold storage. There are hundreds of thousands of biological genes and seeds of various plants stored here. As the planet is transformed, various organisms need to be released. Most of the organisms that originally existed on this planet have died during the planet transformation process. Coupled with the changes in the environment, there are very few organisms that survived the disaster. The planet's ecosystem has been completely destroyed, and Allen is preparing to rebuild an ecosystem. Creating these things is what the engineer civilization is good at, so Allen handed this task to the only scientist of the engineer civilization. Allen gave him a code name, Number 1. The biotechnology of the engineer civilization is indeed very powerful. Various organisms in the gene bank are cultivated in batches. The first to be put into this planet are algae. After waiting for these algae to reproduce for a period of time, the next is fish. Various fish and marine life were placed in the ocean in a certain order. A small marine ecosystem was established. Then, humans no longer needed to intervene too much. Before long, these creatures would spread in the ocean. After the ecosystem in the ocean was established, it was the turn of the land. Allen sent a large number of robots to plant plants. However, it takes a certain amount of time for plants to grow. The establishment of the ecosystem on land needs to wait until the plants grow to a certain level. During this period, various microorganisms were also released. The appearance of microorganisms can decompose dead plants and animals, increase the fertility of the land, and provide various nutrients for the growth of plants. After the plants grow to a certain standard, herbivores are released first, followed by carnivores. Insects and birds are also released at the appropriate time. On the aquamarine planet, a complete ecosystem is quickly formed. It took 2 years to build the biosphere of the aquamarine planet. Compared with the first time I came to this planet, the aquamarine planet has undergone earth-shaking changes. The unmodified aquamarine planet looks like the ancient Earth, desolate and cold, almost lifeless. Although the current aquamarine planet is still very desolate, it is full of vitality. The foundation has been laid, and the next step is for them to develop on their own. Perhaps in a few decades, aquamarine will complete its evolution on its own. Aquamarine does not have a satellite, so the ocean here has no tides. The ocean without tides can only move by wind and seawater salt density. Now, due to the limited number of organisms in the ocean, the consequences are not obvious. If there is no moon to create tides for a long time, it will seriously affect the marine ecosystem. In addition, tidal movement helps the same ocean currents, which in turn affect the global climate, because the ocean currents distribute warm water and precipitation to all parts of the world. However, if there is no moon, the ocean currents will be greatly weakened, and many areas on the entire planet will have extremely harsh environments. Although aquamarine has atmospheric modification equipment that can help the planet adjust its climate, this situation will become more and more serious over time, unless Allen is prepared to build a set of equipment to create ocean currents in the oceans of this planet. The best way to solve this problem is to find a satellite for aquamarine. With a satellite, these problems will be solved. Allen has discussed with scientists from the two civilizations, and there are several different ways to solve this satellite problem. The first way is to make it yourself. The specific implementation method is very similar to the way Allen created the ocean. It is to capture a large number of asteroids from the asteroid belt, and then install thrusters on these asteroids to change their orbits and transport them to the capture orbit of aquamarine. These smaller asteroids will be combined here to form a complete asteroid, and then new asteroids will be continuously captured from the asteroid belt to fill it. Finally, a satellite with a diameter of 1/30th of aquamarine will be formed. Chapter 440 Satellite. This method has a very difficult problem to solve, that is, the strength of the assembled asteroids, because a satellite is assembled from a large number of asteroids, and its structure is not as good as other naturally formed celestial bodies. If there is no other reason, after hundreds of years or even longer, due to gravity and rotation and other reasons, the satellite will gradually compress and fuse, and finally merge into one satellite. However, there are two problems with this method. One is the assembly of asteroids. It is very difficult to complete this task relying on the technology of both the Iron Blood Warrior and the Creator. Even if it is barely completed, various problems will arise. The other problem is that after the assembly is completed, the strength of the satellite is too low. Because after the assembly is completed, the satellite has a large enough mass and volume, and has an orbit, but this also makes it a target for asteroid impact in the universe. The collision of a large number of meteorites and asteroids will cause this structurally fragile satellite to disintegrate. So it is very difficult for this plan to succeed. The second plan is artificial manufacturing. This plan is to create an artificial satellite, or a space fortress. This space fortress is made of metal, and will be loaded with a large number of weapons. It uses a bioenergy host and a nuclear fusion energy core. Its volume is 1/50th of that of Aquamarine. The advantage of this plan is that this artificial satellite can be controlled by humans, thereby affecting the climate of Aquamarine and adjusting the environment of Aquamarine. Moreover, this interstellar fortress is also the defender of the entire Aquamarine. It is an interstellar fortress with many weapons. Before this fortress falls, Aquamarine is safe. The disadvantage is that it is expensive and difficult to build. It may take hundreds or even thousands of years to build. The third plan is somewhat similar to the first plan, but this time it is not to capture an asteroid, but to directly capture a satellite and then transport the satellite to the capture orbit of Aquamarine. In the galaxy, where Aquamarine is located, there are many planets with satellites, and some of them even have dozens of satellites. In this star system, there is a giant gas planet. The mass of this giant gas planet far exceeds that of other planets in this galaxy. According to the research of the creator, this planet has many satellites. Allen called this planet Emerald Star because from space, the color of this planet is emerald green, and it looks as beautiful as emerald. It is between 700 million kilometers and 1 billion kilometers away from Aquamarine. This emerald star is the cleaner of this galaxy. Because of its huge mass, its gravity is very strong, and asteroids passing through its orbit can be easily captured by it. It attracts those aimless asteroids and comets in the universe to ensure that Aquamarine will not be attacked by too many meteorites. This emerald star has a large number of satellites, which are large and small. The largest one has a mass of 1/8 of Aquamarine, and is also the largest satellite in this galaxy. After calculation, the best size of Aquamarine satellite is about 1/30th of Aquamarine's. Among the many satellites of this giant gas planet, Allen found a suitable satellite. The advantage of this plan is that once it is transported over, the problem of satellites can be solved, and the time spent is also the shortest. The disadvantage is that it is the most difficult. However, it is very difficult to transport it over because it requires too many ion thrusters to change the orbit of such a large satellite. The energy required is also astronomical. Allen asked the scientists to do experiments to push an asteroid to the capture orbit of the Aquamarine planet. At least 10,000 particle thrusters with maximum power are needed. The energy consumed by the ion thrusters is also huge. And this is not the most important problem. The biggest problem is the strength of this satellite, because it needs a strong enough reasoning to get rid of the gravitational orbit of the Emerald planet, so it needs a strong enough thrust. After careful measurement, those scientists found that this satellite is a rocky planet. There is magma inside the planet, and the plates are constantly moving. Even if Allen installed an ion thruster that is enough to push it, it is more likely to crush the satellite like an egg. This kind of satellite is not as strong as we think, unless it is a planet with a high metal content, such as Mercury. This kind of planetary thruster can be used for planetary thrusters. All three plans are difficult. After discussion, Allen decided to use the first plan for experiment. This plan is not difficult in the early stage. Capturing asteroids has been done many times, and the Iron Blood warriors are already very skilled. Arriving at the asteroid belt again, after some exploration, Allen found an asteroid with a diameter of about 50 kilometers. After calculation, it was most cost effective to use ion thrusters on an asteroid of this mass. There were 5 asteroids in the first batch to be captured. Except for the largest asteroid with a diameter of 50 kilometers, the others were asteroids with diameters between 10 kilometers and 30 kilometers. After spending some time installing ion thrusters on these asteroids, they moved towards the direction of the Blue Sea Star according to the predetermined orbit. Due to the gravity of the Emerald Star, the orbit of the asteroid is an arc. Although the distance is much longer, the reasoning requirements of the thrusters are reduced a lot. After a while of sailing, these asteroids finally arrived at the gravity capture orbit of the Blue Sea Star. The 5 asteroids began to revolve around the Blue Sea Star in the gravity orbit. At the same time, the thrusters kept adjusting them to prevent the asteroids from being attracted by the gravity of the Blue Sea Star and finally colliding with the Blue Sea Star. You must know that the impact of such a large asteroid is enough to directly destroy the ecosystem of the blue sea star that has just been transformed. The next step is to assemble these asteroids, which is also the most difficult part of this plan. According to the current technology of the two civilizations, some metal connecting frames are built on these asteroids and then connected. At the same time, iron thrusters are installed at the opposite position of the connection to force these asteroids to be assembled together. The metal requirements used in this plan are very high, which is difficult to achieve according to the technology of both the Predator and the Creator. So Allen is going to use another method. Since technology cannot do it for the time being, let's change the idea and use magic. There are still some ways to achieve the effects that technology cannot achieve with magic. Chapter 441 Satellite 2. In the dark and silent universe, only a few stars can be seen from afar. In this silent universe, several asteroids are moving slowly. Allen is standing on the largest asteroid at this time, holding the artifact staff quietly in his hand. Although it is in a vacuum state, the surrounding environment has no effect on Allen. As a ray of spiritual light rises, a powerful energy instantly bursts out from Allen's body, and the huge wings spread directly with a swish, and Allen's body quickly transforms into a half-dragon form. Feeling the powerful energy in his body, Allen squeezed his palm covered with dragon scales, and then a sound that seemed to come from the depths of his heart slowly spread. The iron-blooded warriors around can hear this sound. You must know that this is in a vacuum universe, and there is no medium for sound transmission. As Allen's voice spreads according to a strange rhythm, a powerful wave rises from his body. An elemental channel slowly opens, and a breath of earth element comes from the channel. An ancient earth giant sensed his call, and responded to him. His incarnation came to this world through the elemental channel. This is a 20-meter tall earth element elder, with heavy steps and a sense of oppression. A strange place, a bit like the Star Elm, but the concentration of element is so thin, a desolate plain. The earth giant elder said in a heavy voice, "Mortal, that's not right. You actually have divinity, and you are also a dragon hybrid." This powerful earth giant actually saw through Allen's background. The earth giant is a servant of the earth element god, and the lowest strength is demigod. It is said that someone has encountered an earth giant close to medium divine power, but no one has confirmed this rumor. The earth giant in front of him has reached the level of weak divine power. "Tell me the purpose of your summoning me." The earth giant no longer entangled with Allen's identity and asked, "I need you to help me fuse a few stones together." Allen pointed to several other asteroids in the universe. The earth giant looked at the asteroids and said, "Okay, but you need to pay enough." His legs began to slowly penetrate into the asteroid, and with the element swallowing and spitting, the 5-kilometer range centered on the earth element began to melt into a muddy state. Allen waved his staff, and an asteroid with a diameter of more than 20 kilometers was directly pulled over. The two asteroids slowly approached each other, and the earth giant stretched out his hands and directly grabbed the moving asteroid, and then his hands directly merged into the asteroid, and then the contacted parts also turned into mud. Under the control of the earth giant, the two asteroids began to slowly contact each other, and a large amount of rocks turned into mud and merged with each other. After a few breaths, the two asteroids completely merged into one. Then the earth giant continued to operate, and soon the remaining 3 asteroids were also successfully fused together. Finally, the 5 asteroids merged into an asteroid with a diameter of 75 kilometers. The earth giant completed his work. If Allen did this huge amount of work, he would definitely be exhausted and still not be able to achieve such an effect. Only the natural ability of the earth element can do it. Allen took out 30 pure yellow gems and handed them to the earth giant. The earth giant reached out to take it and then swallowed it in one gulp, chewing it directly like eating candy, and burped after swallowing it. The earth giant, who got the reward, did not stay any longer, turned around and passed through the elemental channel and left here. After completing the first fusion, they will continue to capture asteroids from the asteroid belt and transport them to the gravitational capture orbit of the aquamarine. Each time, the diameter of the asteroids transported here is between 20 and 50 kilometers. After transporting them here, Allen will open the earth element channel again and summon the earth giants to fuse the asteroids. Every time Allen summons the earth giants, they are different. These earth giants respond immediately. If you are lucky, you can summon the earth spirit. Unlike the rigid and indifferent earth element, the earth spirit is more friendly, their personalities are more generous, and their voices are loud, and their words are like thunder. In order to build a satellite, Allen summoned hundreds of times. In so many summons, Allen summoned the earth spirit more than once. These earth spirits are more powerful than the earth giants. As elemental life that existed in ancient times, they rarely respond to the summoner now. Every time the earth giants are summoned, they will pay a corresponding reward. Allen has taken out thousands of pure yellow gems during this period. The frequent summons have made these earth giants know Allen. Now the earth giants that often respond to the summons in the earth element plane have been summoned by Allen. Regardless of the fact that the effort is proportional to the reward, the satellite in front of him has reached a diameter of 500 kilometers due to Allen's efforts. Although it is still far from Allen's requirements, this satellite can already affect the tidal movement of the aquamarine. Because of the large-scale use of topaz, the topaz in Allen's private space has been exhausted. Without topaz, the earth giants will not help Allen work, so Allen temporarily stopped the work of fusing satellites. He is now mining the aquamarine. With the detection technology of the Iron Blood Warrior, Allen found several gem mines, and has hatched enough aliens as miners to mine and dig. It must be said that these aliens have become very professional miners after transformation. Their hard claws are like the tongue of a crusher, which can easily crush rocks. Thousands of aliens are digging in the mining area under the command of the Alien Queen. A large number of high-quality topaz are constantly mined. After obtaining the topaz, Allen continued to come to space and began to assemble the satellite. Asteroids were transported here one by one, and then merged in under the operation of the Earth Giant. As the size of the satellites grew, the asteroids also began to grow. At this time, the asteroids transported here were all about 50 kilometers in diameter. Allen planned to merge this satellite to a diameter of 1,500 kilometers. Its orbit will also be close to Aquamarine. After a lot of data calculations, it will be placed in a suitable position. This satellite will become the moon of Aquamarine. Its movement will affect the generation of seasons on Aquamarine. Aquamarine will have 4 seasons throughout the year. The ocean will also form tides, and the ocean currents will be perfected. When this moon is completed, this Aquamarine will become another Earth. This will also serve as a logistics base and experimental base for Allen. Chapter 442 Satellite 3. Aquamarine, Low Earth Orbit. A space battleship is docked here. The particle thrusters of the spacecraft have entered standby mode, and the huge battleship is rotating around Aquamarine like an artificial satellite. About 180,000 kilometers away from Aquamarine, a satellite with a direct distance of more than 1,600 kilometers is operating according to the predetermined orbit. Gravity data is normal. Collecting data on Aquamarine. Collecting ocean current data, collecting tidal data, collecting storm data. A large amount of data was collected, and after calculating that the data met the predetermined requirements, Allen nodded with satisfaction. Compared with the moon on Earth, this moon is much smaller. After more than a year of fusion, this moon assembled by tens of thousands of asteroids is finally completed. Because it was built with the help of the Earth Giant, this moon is also contaminated with some elemental power. If the element concentration on the surface of Aquamarine is regarded as 1, the element concentration on the surface of this moon is 5, which is close to the element concentration in the barren land in the wizard world. According to this standard, the average element concentration of the wizard continent is about 20, and the element concentration in some large wizard organization areas is 40. The concentration inside the academy is even higher. The data gap is very large, mainly because the element concentration here is too thin. Naturally, the moon with the highest element concentration became Allen's palace. After all, it is not comfortable for wizards to stay in element poor areas or even dead magic areas for a long time. Moreover, the consumption of casting spells in these environments is doubled, and the recovery speed is also doubled. The consumption is doubled, but the power of the spell is reduced. It can be said that this world is not friendly to spellcasters. If a spellcaster from the Arcane Council comes here, the whole person is basically useless. They are used to casting spells with the magic net and often rely on the power of the magic net. The wizard world is slightly better, Because there is no magic net in the wizard world, it is very difficult to cast spells, but even so, it is very difficult to cast spells in this environment. The advantage of the magic web casting is that it lowers the requirements for the caster, so the number of spellcasters in the world of Tebas is dozens of times that of the wizard world. However, this gap is greatly reduced after reaching the legendary level, and the proportion of advanced legends in the wizard world is much higher. The last time I returned to the Five Rings Tower, Allen had already noticed that several tower masters had reached the critical point and were only one step away from advancing to the legendary level. However, this step is not easy to cross. Many people in history ended up stuck at this threshold and never crossed it until they died. After crossing this hurdle, the road will be smooth. Low-level legends are level 4 wizards, high-level legends correspond to level 5 wizards, and after high-level legends are astronomical mages. Although legendary casters can also enter the astral world, they cannot leave the main world for too long, and there are many crises in the astral world. Legend is only the minimum requirement. There are 3 levels of astronomical mages, namely, astronomical explorers, astronomical travelers, and astronomical wanderers. There are also some other names for astronomical mages, such as planus walkers and source mages. The lowest level of star explorer means that he can explore in the star realm, and star traveler means that he can move freely in the star realm and travel through different planes. Star traveler is also called plane merchant, star merchant. These people have a lot of good things because they have been to many planes. If you are lucky enough to meet a star traveler, you can exchange a lot of rare items. Allen, the highest level star wanderer, doesn't know much information. The limited knowledge shows that there are almost no creatures in the star realm that can threaten them. As for the level after the star wanderer, Allen is not clear, perhaps only in the most glorious period of the Arcane Empire. Allen's current level is the initial legendary, but because of his bloodline and divinity, his strength is much higher than that of ordinary legends. After entering the legend, there is no bottleneck before becoming a star mage. You only need to learn step by step to advance until you reach the peak of the higher level legend. Crossing this threshold is a star realm mage, who is also called the source mage, meaning a mage who has contacted the source sea. The source sea is the foundation of the existence of the multiverse. Most planes are born from the source sea, the abyss plane, and the ancient gods are also born in the source sea. The source sea is also the birthplace of the soul. The source sea is the birthplace of life, but it is also an extremely dangerous place. The source sea contains powerful energy and almost all the rules. After the death of all living beings, if there is no other reason, the soul will return to the source sea, and then the source sea will melt and decompose it into the most basic soul light. Memory, wisdom, including the soul will disappear, leaving only a ray of soul light. At this time, he has no relationship with the past, and the soul light will regenerate a new soul. The source mage is a powerful spellcaster who can already contact the source sea. The source sea contains most of the rules, which is a huge temptation for all spellcasters, but if you are not careful, you will be swallowed by the source sea, and then decomposed into a ray of soul light. The power of the celestial wizard is not stronger than that of the gods. Maybe some of them can be stronger, but most of them are not the opponents of the gods, unless the gods leave the kingdom of God and become the incarnation of saints. The gods in the kingdom of God are difficult to be killed, and the entire kingdom of God is his power. However, compared with the gods, the astrologers are much freer. The gods cannot leave the plane where they are, and can only move in some planes around the main material plane. The godhood provides them with powerful power, but also restricts them to where they are, unless they give up the godhood. The main body of the gods usually stays in the kingdom of God. They usually send their incarnations into the material plane or other planes. The incarnation carries part of the power of the gods. If the incarnation dies, it will lose part of the power. The gods cherish their lives very much, or they are very afraid of death. If the gods in the form of saints die, they really fall. Few gods will descend to the material plane in the form of saints, because there are always some daring people who want to kill the gods and snatch the godhood, and then become gods themselves. And according to some records from the Arcane Empire, some people did succeed. This is a quick way to become a god. If he follows the general process of becoming a god, he needs to be at least a demigod. have divinity, and then find an unoccupied priesthood, form a church, and let believers believe in him. After accumulating enough power, he can condense the godhood, priesthood, ignite the divine fire, hold high the throne, and create his own kingdom of God. Chapter 443 Palace. This is the most orthodox way to deify, and it is very difficult to operate. Because the priesthood and domain are not so easy to condense, many times they have been occupied in advance, and before becoming a true god, your church can only be called a cult at most, and will be suppressed by other gods. There are enough gods, and they don't want one more person to share the cake, unless it is in a world without gods. There are no gods in the wizard world, but don't think it is easy to deify in the wizard world. Wizards can let a god emerge and stand on their heads. Allen found in the ancient books in the Five Rings Tower that this world had some indigenous gods and demigod spirits in the earliest time. After the first batch of wizards came here, all the indigenous gods and demigod spirits died in a few hundred years. After all, the divinity of indigenous gods and demigod spirits is a good thing for wizards. In this world, if Allen is willing, he can easily spread faith in this world, condense the godhood and priesthood, and then ignite the divine fire and successfully deify. It's just that this kind of belief in God is too restrictive, and he will be confined to this world and cannot leave. He is a man who is destined to become the pirate king. No, he is a man who is going to conquer the stars and the sea. How can he be bound to this plane? This plane will only be a logistics base in Allen's many planes. After the completion of the moon of the aquamarine planet, the transformation of the entire aquamarine planet is nearing its end. In addition to the atmosphere, which still needs to be transformed, there is no other work. After completing the transformation, Allen began to build his palace here. This moon with a diameter of 1,600 kilometers is not large. At Allen's request, the surface of the planet began to install the main guns of the Iron Blood battleship. This satellite will also serve as an interstellar fortress. This interstellar main gun is powerful and comparable to legendary spells, but it is very difficult to manufacture. After Allen explained it to them, he began to build the palace. Because this artificial moon was completed by the Earth Giant, the entire planet is very solid. Allen opened up a space inside the moon. The space is not large, only about 10 kilometers. Then he summoned the 4 element again. After paying some gems, this small space was rejuvenated. The fire element provided it with temperature and light, the wind spirit injected air and wind into it, the water element brought water and life, and the earth element provided land and gravity for this space. Finally, the shape of this space has been close to the main material plane. Next, Allen is going to build an ecological park here, where magic plants will be planted. Because the concentration of element here is very low, Allen also needs to build an element pool. The construction of the element pool is not difficult. Unlike the element pool built in the wizard tower before, Allen's current element pool technology has been optimized again. The materials required are much lower than before. At least the amount of mithril has been reduced by 2/3, and the rest can be replaced by thorium. You must know that half of the cost of the element pool is spent on mithril. Since Allen's wizard tower installed the element furnace, the element pool has been retired. Now the element pool in the wizard tower is occupied by Alex and Hourglass. The growth of the two little guys requires a lot of energy. In the past, the element pool was the important place of the wizard tower. Allen forbade them to play in it. Allen would only let them stay in it when they were advanced and sleeping. Now there is an element furnace, which has been used as a nest by them. Purebred phoenixes are semi-elemental creatures. They can transform between elemental bodies and physical bodies. They like areas with abundant energy. Abundant energy can accelerate their growth. Alex has the blood of the phoenix, but it is a physical body and cannot be elementalized. However, an abundant energy environment can also accelerate its growth. Hourglass, as a dragon species created by Allen, has the blood of a giant dragon. He only needs to sleep in an area with abundant element for decades to advance. Sometimes it has to be said that these species have enviable blood advantages. Allen soon completed the construction of the element pool theme, then took out the staff, and after sacrificing 4 fist-sized blue, red, yellow, and green gems, he connected the 4 elemental planes. A stream of elemental power quickly poured into the element pool, and a layer of light blue elemental water soon gathered in the element pool. The concentration of element around the element pool increased rapidly, and soon reached the concentration of element in the wizard continent. As time goes by, the concentration of element here will continue to increase. With enough elemental energy, Allen's botanical garden can grow magic plants. When the elemental water in the element pool is more than half, Allen opened the energy channel connecting the botanical garden, and the light blue elemental water entered the botanical garden along the network that had been laid long ago. In the botanical garden, a large number of planting robots are starting to grow magic plants according to the pace designed by Allen. Allen observed for a while and everything was normal, then left here and came to the residence. The style of the residence is modern. After all, the living place is as comfortable as possible, and the modern style is better in terms of enjoyment. Allen doesn't need to do it here. He just needs to choose a drawing, and the engineering robot will build it for him. After looking at the bedroom, the next thing is the laboratory, because this world is a technological world, and various tools are more advanced than the laboratories in the wizard world. In addition to these tools, Allen also needs to personally arrange various energy pipelines, carve permanent rune arrays, and make alchemy tables. These things cannot be replaced by technology. Similarly, Allen has packed a copy of the various tools here, which is ready to be taken back to the wizard world. The alchemy lab is the most important place besides the element pool and botanical garden. The number of rune arrays that need to be engraved here is second only to the element pool. It took Allen several days to engrave thousands of runes. After the alchemy lab was completed, the main building of the palace was completed. The remaining training grounds, libraries, and entertainment venues were left to the engineering robots to slowly build. What Allen needed to build now was the protective barrier. The protective barrier that covered the entire palace. The command and engineering robots laid the energy pipelines, and Allen began to engrave runes at some locations. Allen was already familiar with these. According to the drawings given by the chip, the palace was divided into many areas, and there were several points in each area that needed to be engraved with runes. The optimized rune barrier removed many useless runes and added some energy nodes. Although the number of runes was reduced, the strength of the barrier was even better. Chapter 444 Factory. With the completion of the barrier, the construction of the palace is also coming to an end. After the transformation of the aquamarine planet is completed, it will serve as Allen's logistics base, and also the planet where the Warblade clan lives. The Iron Blood warriors who have undergone body transformation can already adapt to most environments, and this Earth-like environment will not have any impact on them. The construction of a floating city requires a lot of basic materials, and steel is the most consumed. With the productivity of the wizard world, it basically takes decades to produce enough steel. The steel consumed by a floating city is in the tens of millions of tons. The entire wizard world relies on the productivity of the Middle Ages to produce steel, which is less than 100,000 tons a year, and most of it is just iron materials, not steel. Even if Allen uses magic to help them, it can only double it at most. But this is still a drop in the bucket for the needs of building a floating city. Using the wizard's way to smelt steel can indeed increase production, but Allen doesn't have time to keep smelting steel. Because there are enough wizards in the Five Rings Tower, there will always be wizards who rotate to make steel. Moreover, the steel consumption of the floating city does not require tens of millions of tons at once. As long as the continuous output is guaranteed. Although the construction of the floating city requires a lot of rare materials, the demand is not much. The construction of the floating city is actually restricted by the basic materials of the astronomical number. After completing the transformation of the aquamarine, Allen has asked the Iron Blood warriors to start building a series of modern factories. Almost all production in the technological world is divided into a series of processes which are linked together. The lack of any one will lead to the inability to produce. For example, Allen needs steel, so he builds a steel plant. Is it enough to just build a steel plant? Does the steel plant need ore for production? The ore is underground. Does it need a mine? This requires the construction of mine. Steel making and mining require electricity, and then a power plant needs to be built. Steel making requires coke, which requires the construction of a coal mine. In addition to these, a chemical plant, a sewage treatment plant, and even transportation, traffic and many other links need to be built. In general, the supporting facilities of a steel plant need at least a dozen factories. If it were on Earth, it would not be so troublesome. Other supporting facilities are already in place, and only production is needed. However, here, all of them need to be built a little bit. Fortunately, the technology of the Predator and the Engineer is advanced enough. There are some construction equipment in the mothership and the military base, which makes the construction of the factory not slow. The construction of the mine is the fastest, because Allen has assigned the modified aliens to the mine, so the mine only needs a limited number of large machines to start construction. The power plant uses the bioenergy host technology of the Engineer civilization. The construction of the bioenergy power plant does not require anyone to operate and maintain it. It is the best choice for Allen, who is now short of manpower. Originally, most of the ordinary steel that Allen planned to use to build the floating city was installed on the floating city after enchanting. However, after obtaining the scientific and technological information of the Predator and the Engineer, Allen planned to use the steel used by the top space battleship. This steel is the main steel of the Predator space battleship. Its strength, toughness, oxidation resistance, and corrosion resistance far exceed the special steel produced on Earth in this era. The weight of this steel is also much lighter. The same volume of steel is less than a quarter of the weight of ordinary steel. The weight reduction is energy saving. After all, the amount of steel used in a floating city is amazing. If the weight of so much steel is reduced by a quarter, the weight of the entire floating city may be reduced by half. The energy saved is enough for Allen to do many things. However, the difficulty of smelting this steel is very high. This steel needs to add a lot of special materials, many of which are special materials that are only available in the universe and do not appear on the aquamarine star. After Allen got the sample of this steel, he decided to use it to build the floating city. After enchantment and other processes, the magic steel made of this steel far exceeds the magic steel made of other materials. Using this magic steel can increase the defense of the floating city to an extremely exaggerated level. With better materials, Allen naturally does not want to use low-grade materials anymore. If he did not have a logistics planet, Allen would never consider this idea. Building a floating city is just building it with money. It is completely a waste of money. Although Allen has a lot of wealth, there are many places to spend money. The construction of a floating tower cost Allen 2/3 of his wealth. You know, he has gained a lot of wealth in several worlds. The treasure of Lonely Mountain and the Hobbit has now been exhausted. The golem production line is even more expensive. Each golem needs to be mixed with some other precious metals. Over time, it is a huge amount. After returning this time, Allen also wants to build a steel golem production line. By then, the demand for steel will reach an extremely terrifying level, but this is also necessary, because the obsidian golem cannot completely suppress the demon army. Only the steel golem is the main force of the future golem army. In this world, Allen has solved the material problem of the construction of the steel golem. The material of the steel golem does not need to be as high as that of battleship steel. Ordinary special steel is enough. Allen is building a large steel plant with a capacity of tens of millions of tons. This steel plant mainly produces special steel and battleship steel. After the construction is completed, it can provide enough special steel for the steel golem production line. In addition to these, the steel golem has another problem that needs to be solved in that production line, that is, the high-level soul crystal. Allen spent a long time in the last world to cultivate more than 300 soul crystals, but this amount of soul crystals is less than a fraction of the gap in the iron golem. It seems that the next goal is to find enough high-level soul crystals. Allen rubbed his chin and thought in his mind. In the multiverse, the place with the most soul crystals is the underworld, which is the territory of the god of death. A large number of dead souls can create countless soul crystals, but there are very few who dare to do so. The god of death is not a weak chicken like a native god or a false god. The god of death in each pantheon is a strong one. There are many powerful gods among them. Except for some daring devils, demons, and evil gods who steal some souls secretly, no one dares to commit suicide. Even those devils, evil gods, and demons will fail and be killed by the death walkers under the god of death, and their heads will be hung on the walls of the city of the dead. Chapter 445 Return. Apart from the kingdom of the god of death, the river Styx has the most souls, but stealing souls from the river Styx is a technical job. The river Styx flows out of the void, passes through the main material plane, flows to the lower plane, and finally comes to the kingdom of the god of death, and then returns to the source sea from here. The river Styx has countless tributaries, which connect countless planes. The river Styx will bring these souls to the underworld, so theoretically, the river Styx connects countless planes, and you can enter any plane where the river Styx passes through. But there are very few people who have done this for tens of thousands of years, because the river Styx is not safe. The water of the river Styx is very light, and has almost no buoyancy, except for the soul, that can float on the water. Everything else will sink into the water. There is a tool specifically for weighing souls, called the golden scale. It can weigh the weight of the soul, put the soul on one end of the scale, and put a feather on the other end. The soul is lighter than a feather, and the river Styx is also called the feather sinking river. The Styx is very corrosive. The human body will quickly melt after contacting the water of the Styx. Even gods rarely touch the water of the Styx. Only the god of death in the multiverse can resist this corrosive power. The more terrifying thing about the water of the Styx is that it can cleanse a person's memory. As long as you touch the water of the Styx, you will permanently lose some memories. This is also an important use of the Styx. A large number of souls are attracted by the Styx, and then their memories are cleansed, and then they enter the source sea to reincarnate. So basically, except for the god of death or the god of death's servants, no one will enter other main material worlds through the Styx. The Styx soul stealer is a creature that lives near the Styx. It is one of the few monsters that dare to touch the water of the Styx. This monster is often in a state of confusion, because the memory is washed away by the water of the Styx when it touches the soul. In fact, the various dangers of the Styx are more about protecting the soul from being stolen by others. In addition to these places, the places with the most soul crystals are demons and devils. The world of Tebas is now in full swing in integrating the abyss, and many soul crystals have been produced. Allen got some high-level soul crystals from Tebas, but because the world of Tebas has a great demand for soul crystals, the number given to Allen is limited. There are several ways to obtain soul crystals. The simplest and crudest way is to kill people and then extract souls, but the quality of soul crystals obtained in this way is mostly low, mostly gray, and there are basically no high-level soul crystals. One is to kill powerful creatures such as demons and devils. This method can obtain high-quality soul crystals. The high-level soul crystal in Allen's hand was obtained in this way, but this method is very dangerous, and demons are not so easy to kill. There are also some powerful soul bodies such as ghosts and earthbound spirits. These soul bodies will drop soul crystals when they are killed. The stronger the strength, the better the quality. While the factory on the Aquamarine Star was being built, Allen sent a spaceship back to Earth to bring his clone here. He planned to let this clone take over the work here instead of him, and continue to enslave the Iron Blood warriors, to provide him with supplies after Aelu left. Allen planned to build a plane gate in this plane, connect it to his wizard tower, and use the resources of this world to support the construction of his floating city. It takes a lot of energy to open the plane gate. Allen planned to install it in his palace. There is an element pool here. The energy in it is enough to open the plane gate. The plane gate is opened once a month, and each time it will transport a month's accumulated materials to the wizard tower. After a lot of calculations by the chip, Allen began to build the plane gate in the palace. Because there is no interference from the will of the abyss, the consumption of this cross-plane transmission will be much lower. The plane gate uses a lot of obsidian to build it, and it is connected to the element pool. Because it has been built several times, the construction speed of this plane gate is very fast. It took Allen 3 days to complete the construction. After handing over the task to the clone, he was ready to leave this world, take the alien queen back to the private space, and fill the remaining space with materials. Allen came to the palace on the moon. There are many things that cannot be taken away from this harvest, which is a pity for Allen. If he can bring the Iron Blood battleship back to the wizard world, this thing is already comparable to a small floating city, but the Iron Blood battleship is too big. Allen's private space can't fit it, and the space channel opened by the plane door is too small, so Allen can only regretfully leave this Iron Blood battleship here. Open the system interface. Click the return button. A spiritual light rises, and Allen's figure disappears in the empty palace. Wizard World, Southeast Sea Area, Wizard Tower. A spiritual light rises on the astronomical table, and Allen's figure appears here. It's so comfortable. Taking a deep breath of the air full of elemental energy, Allen stood on the astronomical table and stretched his waist. He actually tasted a slightly sweet taste in the air. The taste of element is really good. Allen was in a good mood after taking a few breaths of air. To be honest, he felt very uncomfortable staying in that technological world because the elemental energy there was too low, just like you used to live in a tropical rainforest with a humid climate and then suddenly came to the Arabian desert area. Casting spells and restoring magic power are very difficult, just like walking in a muddy shoal with great obstacles. Allen doesn't like this feeling, but he also gained a lot this time. Main body, your back. A clone that looks exactly like Allen appeared in the astronomical observatory. This is a small clone Allen had cloned before. When Allen travels to other planes, he will wake him up to watch the house. The strength of this clone was only a first level wizard before, but now it has reached the second level. Yeah. Allen nodded, and then took back a trace of the soul in the clone. Everything that happened during this period appeared in his mind. Waving his hand to put the clone into the life support capsule, Allen left the astronomical observatory. During this period, the first phase of the floating city project was underway. The central city of Atlantis had just been separated, and other transformations had just begun. The main reason was the lack of manpower. But this time with the alien Allen brought back, I believe the progress of the project will be much faster. The Iron Golem production line is also being assembled slowly. Because many of the equipment can only be made by Allen, the progress is very slow. Some of the early work is left to the maids to complete, and the other parts need to be gradually improved by Allen. He also needs to accumulate high-level soul crystals. Now Allen has more than 800 high-level soul crystals in his hands after a long period of accumulation. It will take some time to digest the production capacity of the Iron Golem production line. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 446 Zombies? Master. Maid Biss came to Allen with other maids. Allen couldn't help showing a gratified smile on his face when he saw the most capable maid. Thank you for your hard work. Allen nodded and said. He already knew from the memory of the clone that his maids had been building the floating city during this period. Hold a banquet tonight. Master, we will prepare it now. Maid Biss bowed slightly and started to prepare with others. The banquet in the evening was very sumptuous. Allen's half plane had a variety of ingredients. Under the superb cooking skills of the mermaid maids, they made a variety of magical dishes. After resting for 2 days, Allen began to build the plane gate. This plane gate will connect Allen's colonized plane. After the floating city is fully built and the abyss bugs are eliminated, Allen is ready to develop these planes. Soon a tall and gorgeous plane gate was built, but this plane gate now has only one coordinate, which is the technological plane that Allen just returned to. After placing the alien queen in the demi-plane, the maids commanded it to join the construction of the floating city, and Allen prepared to cross again. This is a grey world, with a grey haze everywhere. There is a thick layer of dark clouds in the sky. Although it is daytime, the light is still dim. The breeze blows, bringing a hint of dampness, and a hint of coldness falls on Allen's face. It's raining. Feeling the coolness, Allen snapped his fingers and wanted to cast a translucent energy barrier to separate the drizzle in the sky. Only the spiritual light flickered slightly and the energy barrier did not appear. No, the rules of this world are a bit weird. Allen just cast a spell and obviously felt that it was a bit different from the wizard world. The rules were much stricter, but for the legendary wizard, this was not a problem. After testing it several times, Allen successfully cast a spell. The consumption is a bit high, but it's acceptable. Feeling his own situation, Allen began to observe the surrounding environment. This is a desolate wilderness. The ground is barren and there are many wild grasses growing in disorder. There are several dead trees in the distance. In some bushes, Allen saw some weathered bones. There is an obvious gap on the skull of the skeleton, which is obviously left by a heavy blow. Several inexplicable bee straws came from afar, making the atmosphere here cold and gloomy. Rustle, rustle. A strange sound came from a distance. It came from a long distance in this silent wilderness. Allen turned his head and looked over. A figure was staggering from a distance. Zombie? The dark vision given by the blood of the divine dragon allowed him to see the figure clearly. The stiff body, rotten flesh, dirty cloth strips, hideous face and maggots crawling back and forth on the body. Is it Resident Evil? As the most famous movie about death, the first thing he thought of when he saw this zombie was this movie. Perhaps sensing Allen's presence, the zombie opened his bloody mouth and roared, and walked towards Allen. As it roared, not far behind it, figure slowly moved. How disgusting. Looking at the zombies that were coming towards him, Allen frowned and snapped his fingers. Fist-sized fireballs appeared and flew towards the zombies that were coming. The flame beads hit the zombies, and the flames directly wrapped them. The zombies burned rapidly like human torches, and were soon burned into a pile of ashes by these magic flames. Just as Allen was about to turn around and leave, a bright light suddenly flashed. Allen's heart moved, and he walked over. Next to the zombies that were burned to ashes, a small blue bottle lay quietly on the ground, and it flickered from time to time under the light of the fire. Snapping his fingers, a translucent palm picked it up. What is this? Looking at the small bottle in his hand, Allen was a little surprised. The bottle was brand new and looked familiar, as if it had just fallen here. Gently unscrewed it, scanned the chip. An invisible light wave swept past, and a large amount of data appeared in front of Allen's eyes. Soon the data disappeared, and the scan results of the chip appeared in front of him. Magic potion for restoring magic, 10 milliliters, can quickly restore magic. Magic potion? Allen looked at the small bottle in front of him in surprise. Since there is such a potion, then this world is not a biochemical crisis, but a magic world, and these are not zombies, but zombies. But we need more information to know which world it is. Allen put away the blue potion bottle and turned to leave. There was no road in the wilderness, and Allen randomly found a direction to move forward. He did not find any other animals along the way, but he encountered a few wandering zombies, which were burned by Allen's fireballs from a distance. After walking for about 15 minutes, Allen saw a ray of light. Seeing the light appear, Allen was happy in his heart. There was light in the wild, which was likely to be human. Turning his footsteps, Allen walked towards the light. From a distance, the light seemed to be on a stone pillar, illuminating the surrounding area of about 2 meters. Allen walked closer, and was a little disappointed. There was no one here. The light was only emitted from the top of the stone pillar. There were some strange runes engraved on the stone pillar. There was a basin-sized groove in the middle of the stone pillar. There are some strange patterns carved around the groove, like runes, but a little different, mysterious and vicissitudes. There is some clear water in the groove. Above the groove, there is a rock protruding downwards. A drop of water drips from it, and the water in the groove ripples lightly. Allen clearly felt a strange energy fluctuation. What is this? Looking at the spring water in front of him, Allen was a little confused. The spring water was clear and contained a vibrant vitality. Magic spring water? Why is it placed here so casually? Allen looked around and found no artificial buildings except the stone pillar in front of him. There are also magic springs in the wizard world. This is a crystallization of alchemy that can continuously produce spring water with magical effects. However, the shelf life of this spring water is very short, only 1 day. As long as you leave the spring water, its effect will continue to weaken, and it will become ordinary water in 1 day at most. It is usually placed in some strongholds or garrisons, but now there are very few wizard organizations that make this kind of thing, because its cost effectiveness is not high, the cost of construction is not low, and the duration of the spring water effect is good, but it can only be drunk on the spot. Chapter 447 Diablo. The wind blew gently, bringing a slight coolness. Allen drank some spring water and felt a cool feeling from his throat down to his stomach, and then spread out and merged into his limbs and bones. In an instant, all the fatigue disappeared, and his body was full of vitality. It is indeed the vitality spring water. Feeling the effect of the spring water, Allen whispered. As the spring water was used, the light source on the stone pillar dimmed and finally disappeared, indicating that the magic spring water had been used and would not light up until it was filled with water again. A strange tone came from afar with the wind. Allen tilted his ear and listened attentively. The sound was intermittent. Is there anyone? Allen's eyes lit up slightly. Let's go and find out the situation first. Following the direction of the sound, Allen moved and walked over. As the distance got closer, Allen's expression became more and more weird because he heard the sound clearly, and these sounds were actually demon language. The next moment, Allen saw the source of the sound. It was a camp. There were a group of short, red-skinned, thin, ugly fallen demons who were not even as tall as Allen. They held a shield in one hand and a wooden stick with nails on the front in the other hand, constantly hitting and waving. There were more than 50 fallen demons in this group, and they were dancing around a bonfire. Among the fallen demons, there was a fallen demon wizard wearing a hat made of strange feathers. His skin was red and his figure was much taller than other fallen demons. He was hunched over with a skinny body and a piece of animal skin wrapped around his waist. The fallen demon wizard held a bone staff in one hand and some strange things in the other hand. He was muttering something and pouring it into an iron pot on the bonfire. The strange dark green liquid in the iron pot was churning up and down. Allen could see from a distance that there was a human thigh in it. Diablo. Seeing this familiar scene, Allen instantly knew that this was the world of Diablo. The fallen demon wizard was once called a rookie killer. The fallen demon is a common monster in this world. It can be said to be cannon fodder among cannon fodder. It is timid, cowardly, bullies the weak and fears the strong. Its strength is the scum among the scum. The only advantage is probably the number. Ordinary humans can easily kill several fallen demons. This kind of monster will only have the courage to attack when the number far exceeds others, and once a setback occurs, it will turn around and run away. It can be said that it is simply a shame for demons. However, if a fallen demon wizard appears among the fallen demons, these cowards will become fearless and have amazing courage. Although the fallen demon wizard is called a wizard, it only knows two spells. One is the secondary fireball spell, and the other is the resurrection spell. The fallen demon wizard can resurrect the fallen demon without limit. This fallen demon wizard also has another name called the novice butcher. Once you encounter a group of monsters with more than 3 fallen demon wizards, if you don't kill the fallen demon wizard in the first time, the result is often that you will be exhausted to death by the infinite resurrection of the fallen demon. Finally, it becomes a delicious meal in their iron pot. In this tribe, Allen has found 5 fallen wizards, and the unlucky guy in the iron pot was killed by these fallen demons. After knowing that this world is Diablo, Allen was overjoyed. Although this world is dangerous, the benefits in it are too rich. Various potions, gems, equipment, runes, and the synthetic artifact Heraldric Cube. The Heraldric Cube is a powerful artifact left by the Heraldric Wizard. It can reduce equipment, materials, and gems to synthesize more advanced ones. And it is also a space equipment. There are many precious items in this world, the most mysterious of which is a rune word. Combining several rune stones can create a powerful equipment. Allen is very interested in these rune stones. There are a total of 33 rune stones, and each rune has a special power. I don't know what period this Diablo is in. If Big Pineapple is still sealed by humans, we must capture them no matter what. The 3 big bosses at the level of Demon King, their soul crystals are at least demigods. These demons have a lot of divinity, and catching one of them is a great harvest. Allen's imagination was connected for a while, and he couldn't wait to catch Big Pineapple. But before that, he needed to solve the fallen demon camp in front of him. Ice Storm. A flash of light flashed, and countless ice appeared, and then covered the fallen demon camp in front of him. Dozens of fallen demons who were still partying were instantly cut by countless ice knives. In less than 10 seconds, a thick layer of frost formed on the surface of the entire camp, and all the fallen demons were divided into countless pieces. The fallen demon wizard didn't even hum, and was directly divided into countless pieces by the ice blade. After solving these fallen demons, Allen did not leave. The rules of this world are very strange. After killing monsters, the monsters will drop items and gain some energy. However, because Allen was not a native of this world, these energies did not merge into Allen's body, but merged into the dropped items. More than 50 monsters died, and there were not many dropped items. Allen quickly cleaned up these things, including macro healing potion, macro mana potion, several gold coins, good armor, light, cracked sapphire, and identification scroll. Allen easily distinguished these things. The most valuable one was the cracked gem the size of a fingernail. These gems can be used to enchant equipment. After putting these items away, Allen took out a gold coin and looked at it. This kind of gold coin was roughly made, but the gold content was very high, and basically no need to resmelt it. After putting the things away, Allen began to search in the camp. According to the settings in the game, there are many treasure chests in the camp with the fallen wizard. A camp of this size must have more precious treasure chests. As expected, he soon found 5 treasure chests in this camp. The most gorgeous treasure chest was found in the only tent in the camp. It should be the collection of those fallen wizards. The other 4 boxes looked grey and inconspicuous. The most exciting moment has come. Allen snapped his fingers and summoned a water bowl to wash his hands, then took out 4 grey treasure chests and prepared to open them. He didn't have any expectations for the slowest level treasure chest. He opened the 4 boxes casually. As expected, 2 of the 4 boxes were empty. One of the other 2 boxes opened a few gold coins, and the other opened a bottle of healing potion. Thanks to the book friend name is really difficult for the 500 starting coins reward, and thanks to the book friends Fangai Fansheng, Jingjing Zairodu 984, and Tanba for the 100 starting coins reward. Chapter 448, Cold Wasteland. After throwing away several open boxes, Allen took out the gorgeous box, washed his hands again, and slowly opened the box. As the box opened, a bright light flashed into Allen's eyes. There is something. After opening the box completely, it was an exquisite item that looked like it was made of the bones of some creature, with some symbols engraved on it, and a gem inlaid on it. Amulet? Allen reached out and picked up the amulet. The amulet was a strange equipment in the world of Diablo. He didn't need to wear it, he just needed to put it in the backpack to take effect. Moreover, the effect of the amulet can be superimposed, that is, as long as it can be loaded, the abilities of these amulets can all take effect. After picking up the amulet, Allen felt a strange power appear, and after the chip scanned it, he found that his own elemental resistance increased a little. It seems to be an amulet that increases elemental resistance. Because there was no backpack space in this world, Allen casually hung the amulet around his waist. Hurry up, we need to speed up. Hopefully we'll make it in time. An adventure team was moving quickly in the wilderness, heading for the fallen demon camp. Jack, you must hold on. The leader, a man dressed in tight clothes, muttered to himself. La, you have to be mentally prepared. Don't blame yourself too much. This is our fate. A sturdy giant with a height of at least 2 meters behind him patted his shoulder and comforted him. The team fell silent again, but everyone's speed increased again. A noisy sound came from a distance. Allen put away his things and looked in the direction of the sound. The drizzle made the vision very low, but Allen's eyesight still found the fast-moving figures in the distance. Paladin, assassin, necromancer, barbarian, and a witch, a standard adventure team. Allen recognized their professions from their attire. The group moved very quickly and rushed directly to Allen's position. Jack, Jack! The group of people started shouting from a distance. When the few people came closer, they saw Allen standing here and noticed that the place had been cleaned up. They were obviously happy. One of them, a man wearing tight clothes and looking like an assassin, rushed to Allen. Sir, have you seen a druid named Jack being captured by the fallen demons here? Looking at the panting and anxious man in front of him, Allen pointed to the big pot not far behind him and said, I think the person you are looking for should be there. The assassin turned his head and saw a big pot on the open space, which was a pile of fallen demon corpses. Just when he was wondering, he suddenly saw a human thigh in the pot. No, 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 no. Seeing the big pot, Daug obviously realized something. The other people standing behind him looked at each other and then walked over. Allen watched in silence as they cleaned up the body, then dismantled the surrounding tents, silently pieced the body together, made it look perfect, and sprinkled some grease on it. Finally, the paladin opened the book hanging on his waist and solemnly presided over a ceremony. The witch next to him lit the firewood in the tent, and the flames instantly rose and engulfed the body. Finally, several people put the ashes in a jar and came to Allen to thank him. "I'm sorry, I was a little slow to you because of something just now." The paladin saluted and said, "It's okay, I'm a step late." Allen nodded and said, "I still have to thank you for killing those demons. It's just a little effort. I believe that anyone who encounters it will not stand idly by. My name is Carter, a paladin from the Blood Wasteland. Allen, a mage, a traveler. Are you going to Lugaoian, sir?" Carter asked when he heard Allen's words. "I will go to see it when I have a chance, but I'm lost now. Can you take me to the human gathering place here?" Allen nodded and said. Carter and the others looked at each other and nodded, saying, "Of course." On the next journey, Allen joined their adventure team. Through the conversation, he got to know them better. Carter, a level 10 paladin, was calm and wise. Although he was a little silent, he was the core of the whole team and the leader of the team. Doug, a level 9 barbarian, was generous, strong, and liked to fight. Whenever he encountered an enemy, he was the first to rush forward. La, a level 8 thief, was a little silent because of the death of his friend. He rarely spoke during this period. Bet, a level 9 necromancer, maybe because of the long-term contact with negative energy. He looked pale and a little thin, but his eyes were bright. His profession should be more auxiliary. Allen saw him casting damage deepening and curses along the way, and the skeleton was always the same. Kathy, a level 9 witch, was a peach-like woman with a gorgeous appearance and wearing a loose wizard robe. She seemed to be related to Carter. She had the wisdom of a wizard and the shrewdness of a woman. She was a cat-like woman. The stewed one was named Jack, a druid, and a good friend of La. According to them, this place is already the cold wasteland. Jack and La took a mission to repair the teleportation station here, but they didn't expect to be entangled by a large group of fallen demons. Jack held the fallen demons and asked La to run back to ask for help. However, when the helpers arrived, only these almost cooked corpses were left. The group cleared all the way from the cold wasteland and killed their way back to the rogue camp. However, although they killed many fallen demons and zombies, they did not get any equipment, only a few gold coins. When they came to the Blood Wasteland, they had already stopped. Along the way, Allen also had a certain understanding of this world. This world is divided into 3 parts, the human world, hell, and heaven. Unlike other planes, the connection between the 3 planes of the human world, hell, and heaven here is very close. The battle between humans and demons has basically never stopped. They have always supported humans, but rarely took action. It is said that they need to take care of the world stone of the entire world and cannot leave. They can only help humans at critical moments. The entire plane of the human world has been seriously affected by the invasion of demons. The main force against the abyss is professionals like them, but the birth rate of professionals is not high. Only about 1 in 10 people will successfully become a professional. Chapter 449 Rogue Camp. The humans in this world will have a chance to awaken before they reach adulthood, and this awakening is to become a professional. Before awakening, the higher your physical fitness, the greater the chance of awakening, and when you awaken, you will automatically choose the most suitable profession for you. However, there are 2 special professions that can appear in this ethnic group. One is the Amazon female warrior, and the other is the barbarian. These 2 professions are specific to their races, and only people from their ethnic groups can take up the job, and people from these 2 ethnic groups cannot take up other professions. Allen has seen their strength and then compared it with the wizard world Tibis world. Their current strength is not as good as Tibis's level 5 professional or formal wizard. The demons that appear in this world are not the demon's body, but projections. Only when the demon's body in hell is killed will he really die. If only the projection dies, the demon will only lose some power and will be resurrected again soon. After killing these demon projections, professionals can absorb the energy dissipated by the demons, thereby improving their own strength. The strength of the demon projected to the human world is about 1/5 of his body. After entering the bloody wasteland, the dark clouds covering the sky finally dissipated, and the continuous drizzle stopped. Although the sky was still dark, it was no longer as oppressive as in the cold wasteland. As time passed, the sky gradually darkened. Seeing that they were still a long way from the rogue camp, everyone decided to rest for a night before going back. Bet and I will keep watch tonight. You will go to sleep. After lighting the bonfire and having a simple meal, Carter said directly, "This place has just been cleaned up. There are no other demons. You can have a good rest tonight." Carter, I will keep watch with you. Bet, go to rest. As a mage, you can only be as full as possible if you rest well. Allen patted Bet on the shoulder and said, Sir Allen, you are already a mage. Doug said, really? Do you want us to try to swing your wrist? Allen looked at the barbarian and said with a smile. Just after dinner, Doug was bored and arm wrestled with the men in the team. Naturally, no matter whether it was a paladin, a necromancer or an assassin, they were definitely not his opponents, and the arrogant Doug was very arrogant to try with Allen. The result was naturally shocking. These people had never expected that Allen, a mage, would have such exaggerated strength. Allen easily suppressed Doug, a barbarian. Allen, who has the blood of a divine dragon, has an extremely exaggerated physical fitness. Even in his current human state, his strength is comparable to that of an ordinary adult dragon. If he transforms into a half-dragon, his strength will increase significantly. Hearing Allen's words, Doug shook his head repeatedly. This might be a black spot in his life. As a barbarian, he lost to a thin mage in arm wrestling. If other barbarians knew about it, he would definitely become a legend. Fortunately, they had agreed not to spread it to others, so they finally put their hearts back in their stomachs. Then I will guard the first half of the night, and Mr. Allen will guard the second half of the night. The others should have a good rest. We have to travel tomorrow. Carter thought for a while, and nodded in agreement. There was a blood-red moon hanging high in the sky. The others had already rested in the tent. Allen sat by the campfire and talked to Carter. Although he already knew that this was the world of Diablo, it had been too long and many things had become blurred. More importantly, this world was not a game, but a real world. As a real world, it would not be as rigid as a game. Everything could happen. The civilians in this world had no power to fight against the abyss. They were the most numerous, but they were the most indispensable, because they were engaged in production and professionals were also born. The next ones were soldiers. These people were trained and could deal with some ordinary monsters with cooperation. After that, there were mercenaries. These people, like professionals, received hard training, but they were a little worse than professionals, so they failed to awaken. Professionals, with the least number of people, were also the backbone of the fight against demons. Equipment items were also divided into many levels. The lowest was gray equipment, and white equipment had no additional attributes and the lowest price. Above are blue equipment, gold equipment, and dark gold equipment. These equipment are also called magic equipment, because in addition to the original attributes, these equipment also have additional effects. But dark gold equipment is not necessarily better than blue equipment. Sometimes blue equipment with good attributes is more practical. In addition to these equipment, there are some special equipment, green sets. The attributes of green sets are not stable. Sometimes they are almost the same as white equipment, and sometimes they are stronger than dark gold equipment. The most important thing is that green equipment can be combined into a set with set attributes. In addition to these, there is also a kind of rune language equipment, which is some equipment with grooves that can be inlaid with runes to form rune words. Ordinary daily necessities have no attributes and are not equipment. The next day, everyone returned to the rogue camp at noon. Unlike the place, surrounded by fences in the game, the rogue camp in this world is also surrounded by fences, but those fences are nailed with logs at least 30 centimeters thick. The fence is 4 meters high and looks very solid. Outside the fence is a river about 40 meters wide. A stone bridge connects the rogue camp and the blood wasteland. After walking across the stone bridge, you can see 2 rogue warriors holding archers standing outside the gate of the camp, and there are 4 rogue archers above the gate. They hold a bow in one hand and an arrow in the other, always keeping alert. When the group walked to the gate, the 2 rogues put away their bows and arrows, then bowed and saluted, saying, Lord Carter, Lord Doug, Lord La, welcome home. Whether in the game or in this world, rogues are a group of slender and handsome women, and there is also a set of rogue uniforms, holding bows and arrows, that they are good at using. The rogue in front of him has a hot body, and the leather armor looks like a tight leather jacket. He also looks beautiful. Is it Helen? Are you on duty today? Yes, Lord Carter. The rogue warrior nodded and looked at Allen and said, what is the name of this lord? The rogue camp is not big. There are only a few thousand permanent residents, and even fewer professionals, only hundreds of people. They come in and out here every day. They already know every professional here. Allen's unfamiliar face was seen by them at a glance. Chapter 450 Akira. This is Mr. Allen, a traveler who has just arrived in the Blood Wasteland. Carter pointed at Allen and said, he is a powerful wizard. When we met him, he alone wiped out more than 50 fallen demons. Dear Lord Allen, welcome to the rogue camp. After hearing that Allen had wiped out more than 50 fallen demons, the two rogue warriors looked at Allen with a different look. Hello, nice to see you. Allen smiled and greeted. Okay Helen, you register and we'll go in. Today I'm going to the tavern to have a drink and order a big plate of barbecue. I haven't eaten Aunt Anna's barbecue for a long time. After registering here, the group entered the rogue camp. The rogue camp is a novice village in the game, dilapidated and small, but the rogue camp here, although simple, looks lively. There are thousands of civilians living in the camp, which seems very lively. The bustling crowd is completely different from what Allen imagined. There is a clear division of labor here. Professionals and rogue warriors protect the safety of the camp, and ordinary people provide them with various supplies. Although the rogue camp is small, there are all kinds of shops. There are some livestock that look like cattle near the periphery, and there are also a lot of poultry foraging around. A creature that looks like a dog is squatting on the side to guard. On the other side are plants that look like potatoes, and there are also some wheat fields, but the number is not large. The rogue camp in front of us is a small town that can be self-sufficient. Fruits are rare here. At least Allen has not seen any sold on the street. After asking, he learned that fruits are luxury items for civilians. The land in the rogue camp is limited, with only a few dozen fruit trees. Coarse wheat cakes, mashed potatoes, baked potatoes, broth, black bread and some wild vegetables are the food for civilians. As for white bread and cheese, they are only for professionals. Sugar, salt, coffee, tea, wine and other items need to be transported from the eastern commercial city of Lugaoyan. The caravan will travel once every 3 months, bringing many goods that are not available here, and will also purchase some food and livestock. Some more powerful professionals will also follow the caravan to Lugaoyan. The group came to an inn, which was Carter's place to stay. Sir Allen, are you going to join us? Carter looked at Allen with some expectation. For such a powerful professional, if they join their team, I believe their strength will improve quickly. Sorry, I'm not going to join your team. Allen smiled and refused. Okay, if you have anything, you can come to us. Although it was expected, Carter was still a little disappointed. We are going to go to the bar to drink tonight. Sir Allen, are you going to join us? It's in the tavern opposite. Although he failed to invite Allen to join, Carter still planned to invite Allen to have a drink. Wine is a magic weapon to bring men closer. What if Allen is happy to drink and agrees? I'll go over. Allen looked at the tavern opposite and nodded. Then it's settled. I'll introduce you to some beauties at that time. Carter suddenly whispered in Allen's ear and made a look that all men understand, and then took the other people in. After greeting the others, Allen also booked a room in this hotel. Most of the people living here are professionals. The room is very clean, and the bed is made of starched white linen. Although it is not as good as the velvet in Allen's residence, it is already very good in this place. The room has a balcony. After Allen opened it, the area facing the balcony is another street. Compared with the main road, this street has a lot fewer people. Seeing that it is still early, he is going to go out for a walk. Wandering alone in the camp, Allen saw a small church in the center of the camp. This is a church called the Blind Eye. Allen gently pushed open the wooden door of the church and walked in. The decoration of the church is very simple, but very neat. In the center of the church is a symbol of an eye. A ray of sunlight shines through the window onto the eye, making it look very mysterious. Hello, strong man from afar. Just as Allen was observing, A gentle voice sounded. Allen turned his head and looked, and a woman in purple priest clothes came out from the inner room. She looked about 30 years old, with a soft appearance. The most noticeable thing was her pair of eyes, which were deep, as if she could see through the future. Allen had noticed her a long time ago, and the purpose of coming here was to meet her. This female priest was the pastor of all the rogues in the rogue camp, and also the senior priest of the blind eyes, Akira. In the game, this woman played the role of a guide for novices. The first novice task was obtained from her, which was to clean up the evil cave. The reward was not bad, 1 skill point. She also sold some magic items and potions. However, as a real world, Akira would naturally not be that simple. The moment Allen saw her, he knew that this woman practiced prophecy spells. Allen was very familiar with the fluctuations on her body, which were somewhat similar to those of Dean Alfred. Allen had also come into contact with this kind of power, that is, the school of prophecy. This school was very weak in the early stage, but in the later stage, it would master several powerful strategic spells. They were widely known for predicting the future. Allen had suffered losses in this regard. Before he advanced to a formal wizard, he was hunted down by a wizard with Asian dragon blood. The Asian dragon wizard spent some money to find the Northland witch to predict the future for him. Predicting the future sounds very grand, but it is actually the most unreliable, because the future is not immutable, and a little mistake will get 2 completely opposite results. This subject is like probability, and it is thousands of times more accurate than probability. Through this spell, you can see some fragments of the future, and then use the mastered data clues and other factors to analyze and get the closest answer. When predicting people with lower strength than yourself, the accuracy rate will be very high, but when predicting those who are close to or exceed yourself, the error rate and failure rate will rise sharply, and you will be backfired by fate if you are not careful. There is a characteristic of prophecy spells, and each use of prophecy will consume some vitality. Therefore, there are usually few prophecy casters who die of old age. Think about it. If you have the ability to know the future, would you be unable to help but take a look at the future? Thanks to the Child of Lost Memory, 2017062910033139 book friends for the 100 starting coins reward. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.